Hi, this is the Lunenburg Park Commission. Please, I'm going to call the meeting to order. In accordance to the requirements of the open meeting law, please be advised that this meeting is being recorded and broadcast over the Lunenburg Public Access channel and will be uploaded to the Lunenburg Access YouTube channel. The agenda lists all the topics that may be discussed in the meeting and those reasonably anticipated by the chair. Votes may be taken as a result of these discussions. Not all items listed may in fact be discussed, and other items not listed may also be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by the open meeting law. And because we're on Zoom, we'll be doing a roll call. Dave?
Yes, I'm here.
Karen?
Here.
Chris Sullivan?
Here.
And Pat Hackey?
He's coming. I think he's trying to get on for audio.
Oh, okay.
Pat, you're either muted or I need to let you in for audio.
Pat, you're muted.
Nope, still can't hear you, Pat.
I think now we can. Pat? Here?
All right, what, did Chris leave too and coming back? Hold on, I feel like something's going
No,
on.
I'm here. I'm just trying to
Chris
join my
Sullivan.
other computer with a camera.
Pat, you may have to adjust your microphone. Oh, you wanted to mute again.
Click on audio settings. The bottom left of Zoom.
Yeah, not working. Well, since we have technically a quorum, we'll get started, and when Pat can speak, we'll listen to him, but I think we have a quorum, so we can get going. That's okay. Approval of the minutes. We sent out the meeting folder today. Did everyone have time to read the minutes? And I have to be honest, I did not have the time to read the minutes.
So can I make a suggestion? Because I did read the minutes I read them real quickly. If the others haven't, I would suggest holding them because I do think this is one set of minutes that needs to be sort of vetted before we approve it.
Okay, so maybe we can postpone that. Okay, we have an appointment with Anthony Chioso at 7:10. It's 7:01. If Anthony's ready, we can start now, or we can go on and start with addressing other issues. It's up to you, Anthony, if you want to get started earlier than 7:10.
Yeah, and that would be absolutely fine, and I'd be very appreciative.
All
Are
right.
all your people here, Anthony?
All of my people are here.
Okay,
It's just Greg and I tonight.
okay.
Okay, and yeah, he's in, I'm in, and we're very near to each other. We're actually directly across the table from each other. So I'm gonna go away from him a little bit in case he has to go off mute, so we don't have terrible echo. So brief update for you all. I'm not sure who has been on our Facebook page or not, but we had a focus group about 2 weeks ago that Dave Passos attended. Thank you, Dave. And met with the skate park designer that we have now signed a contract with to both do a design, and we're setting ourselves up to be able to sign a build contract, assuming things progress well for the next couple of weeks. And things so far are looking very positive. So we had an initial focus group where we took the design that he built based upon our topography and the initial feedback from our online survey and presented it. Took about 2 hours worth of feedback, explained his rationale behind the design, and then took that feedback and went off and incorporated, I think, pretty much 100% of it into what looks like it's going to be our poster child moving forward. And that design, and actually, probably, well, the easiest thing for you guys to do, if you don't mind, if someone who's on, if you guys have your screens in front of you, just head over to lunenburgskatepark.org. And what you'll see on the screen is the result of that conversation. Okay, it's
Karen,
actually
can you do
should
that
be up.
for us, and then maybe share the screen?
Yep.
Thank you.
Is it right on the main page?
Is
Anthony?
right, excuse me, right on the main page.
Just click on the image next to About Us. Is that it?
Lunenburg Skate Park. I'm doing the same thing you are. Nope, on the bottom, right on the bottom of the page. See where it's, yeah, that image right there. That is the poster child. On our Facebook page, there's about 9 different views of that facility. So you can see it from all different angles. You can zoom in, zoom out. Obviously, you can zoom in on this as well, just on the page here. But the Facebook page has a bit more functionality. Okay, and we endeavored to stay within the footprint allocated, and I believe we've achieved that. We've dealt with grading, drainage. Well, no, we've dealt with it in the initial design to account for it. So it at least things are headed in the right direction, not from an engineering perspective, from an initial 50,000 foot view. We would ideally address those issues, and things seem to work and line up. And that's where we are today. Next steps in the process are to get through. Actually, let me let Greg talk to that. He's really the right person to do that. We've built out the beginnings of a Gantt chart that'll take us through the process. But before I let him talk, do you guys have any particular questions about any of this so far?
No,
Anthony,
let's,
just to, if I could, Anthony, that picture that's up on the screen now, that's what we were discussing the last meeting that you guys had, right? And none of the alterations are in that particular view.
Negative. All of the alterations are in that view. So one of the big things that we focused on during that session was trying to take a bit of a local DNA and work it into the park design. And it's a little bit difficult to see in this design, but one of the things we wanted to do is really capitalize on the whole Whalum Park, Whale of a Good Time concept. And if you see, Dave, in the top middle of the diagram, you'll see that whale image that Mason drew out during that session. It's actually been worked into the park. And then all of the other feedback that we did provide, the changing the coping colors, the bricks, the Jersey barrier, and then also how the logo is integrated into the park has all been carefully worked into this design as well.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Anthony, this is Karen. The park itself, when I'm looking at this graphic, and I apologize, I wasn't in the state when you had your last meeting. Is that a 0 entry area over on that backside?
So I think the short answer is yes.
Okay.
Actually, on both sides, it'll be a 0 entry. We designed it to actually work into the existing landscape, so that it didn't look like something that was a bit garish and kind of sitting on top of the landscape, but rather works into it.
Okay.
Anthony, I'll have some questions, but if we want to let Greg talk, then if you can stay on out.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for your time this evening. So we're, as Anthony said, we've hired the skate park designer, which is the first sort of critical path item for me as the civil engineer, now with my civil engineering hat on here. So we've been working on with that park design that you just saw, and we're working on putting that into developing the civil plans, the site plans, grading and drainage and layout information and details for construction that will ultimately be needed for building the park. But actually, the first step we need to do is get our local permits out of the way. And the first one we need to get is, and perhaps the only one we need to get, is Conservation Commission approval. The park is going to be within the 100-foot buffer zone to the wetland that's out behind the Little League field, if you can picture that. So we will need to go before the Lunenburg Conservation Commission, and that's sort of our next big design step, so to speak. And we're actually almost ready to do that. The limits of the park, as Anthony said, are pretty locked in. You know, we may make some tweaks to the interior features a little bit along the way, but we think that the overall footprint is good. So we are just about ready. We've been working on preparing, as I said, preparing the site plans, but also preparing the notice of intent application that would ultimately go to the Conservation Commission for their review and approval. And ultimately, like we did on the when Dillis and Roy was hired to do the septic system for the bathhouse, we will need the Parks Commission will have to sign off on that application as owner. So ultimately, we'll need to get you that document, and you guys, I guess, would have, just like we did in that other one, we'll have to, I think, get that on an upcoming agenda, if you're willing to do that, to review that, and you know, at that time, we can certainly answer any specific questions, and we'll have, you know, a little bit more. Certainly, by that point, we'll have a site plan that we can share with you. I thought about sharing a site plan tonight, but it's just not quite developed enough, so I'm gonna hold off on that. But generally speaking, it fits in pretty well with the existing grades. We're working on minimizing the amount of earthwork that we need, as Anthony said, to try to get it to, you know, both fit in with the surrounding landscape, but also so we don't have to do a lot of deep excavation, because there's quite a bit of shallow ledge in that area. So we're really trying to accommodate that. We of course did a geotechnical evaluation of the site, so we have a pretty good baseline recommendation on that front relative to soils and ledge. So the only other thing I wanted to mention is I'm working with the building commissioner and with Casey and Adam Burney relative to relative to planning board site plan approval, whether or not we need it or not. I sat with Adam today, and neither he or I believe that we tripped any of the site plan review criteria. So Casey, the building inspector, is of course the zoning enforcement officer in town, so the call on whether or not the project would need site plan approval is really up to him. So I am going to be working with him to get an opinion on that matter. Regardless of whether or not we need to go for formal site plan approval or not, we do intend to visit the planning board, if nothing else, informally, to get, you know, to sort of bring them into the process. We feel that that's important. So we would like to do that concurrently with if possible, we'd like to do that concurrently with the Conservation Commission process in the next, say, 2 to 4 weeks. So, but that would be the earliest we could do it, 2 to 4 weeks. So, I think that's about all. I'm certainly happy to answer any questions that you have. But again, I think in the next week or two, we'll have a good site plan that we can share with the commission. And perhaps in advance of your next meeting, if you're willing, and also the notice of intent application that we'd need to file with the Conservation Commission that the commission would have to sign off on as owner. So I think that's
Okay.
all. Happy to
All
answer
right.
any questions.
All right, I have a few, if that's okay. Does anyone else in the commission have any questions? They want to get started? No? Okay. So a couple questions. You did mention your timeline, Greg, for your applying for the permits with the conservation and the planning board. What is the timeline for breaking ground?
Yeah, excellent question. We think the earliest is going to be sometime in July, August timeframe. As Anthony said, I have started to put together, well, I haven't started. We have a project schedule, sort of in Gantt chart view. if you will. And we're still kind of developing that. We need to solicit feedback from the skate park designer that we've hired to make sure we have timelines correct. But we'll certainly have something more formal and final, I think, that we could share with you in the next week or two. But that's probably the earliest that we're looking at is sometime in the July timeframe. And that would be, of course, if I think perhaps if the stars align, right? So if we got a lot of work to do between now and then, of course, we understand that. But that's what we're keying in on as sort of an earliest possible start date.
Okay, what is the total footprint? I know you said you stayed within constraints that was originally designed, but what is the total footprint?
Yeah, it's right at that 8,500 square foot.
8,500? Okay.
Yeah.
The next question is now, Greg, you just finalized doing the survey of the property, and we have a conceptual design, and I think everybody now in town kind of knows that we're trying to get our project going. Have you run your design and footprint against or matched with the conceptual design that we got from the architectural company back last April?
Yes, it absolutely does.
So you did put both together. Okay.
Yeah. So if you remember back then, we had the park, sort of closer to the paved entrance drive and that patch of woods, and then in response to the master plan, once the commission finalized the alternative, the jelly bean shape, so to speak, in the skate park location shown on the master plan, landscape architect plan for the park, was closer to the existing T-ball field. And we had that conversation with the commission about, okay, putting it there means we're going to have to lose the jungle gym equipment that are probably from the 60s or 70s, and also the gravel access drive. So we're utilizing that exact same footprint. And what we'll do is now that we're developing our plans further, we'll take that master plan and we'll overlay it on our site plan package, just so we can show you how that looks.
Okay.
But yes, we're staying in that master plan footprint.
Okay. And you just mentioned something about T-ball. From what I recall from the design, I don't think your construction would, in fact, kind of disrupt the current T-ball field, would it?
It will not.
It will not, okay.
We're definitely holding that as a hard barrier. Even though that maybe master plan to go away, we certainly understand that the commission doesn't want to face the baseball folks or the T-ball folks.
Well, I think we just need to plan.
Yeah, no, we're planning to hold that fence as a limit of work,
Okay,
more or less. So we will not work.
Accessibility to the T-ball field will not be compromised with the design.
Correct.
Because you did, okay, because you said the driveway that goes on that side will be taken, which I know, but the accessibility to the T-ball will not be compromised. Okay.
That's great. And actually, you're gonna, I can't really show you this evening because I don't have the plan on the screen and I'm not quite ready, but you're actually gonna get a few extra parking spaces when we if you can visualize it, if you were to come through the woods on that gravel, sort of circular gravel driveway that cuts through the woods down by the T-ball field where we'll be putting the park. When we remove that, there's going to end up being a few spots adjacent to, where you would have otherwise been driving through. Now it's going to dead end. So you're actually going to pick up a few extra spots there, just kind of de facto, when we take that gravel driveway out. And incidentally, we're going to use the piece of gravel driveway from the paved road where it dead ends into the park, and we're going to kind of configure a portion of it so that would be a great spot to bring an ambulance if there's for emergency access to the skate park. So we're planning in that too. Just obviously need to keep that in mind. So
that's great.
it actually works out pretty well. as it
Okay,
turns out.
no, that's great. Thank you. All right, so the next few questions, so we did talk last year, and it was when Karen was still the chair, that, we need to put a contract together between the town, and I think Anthony and Karen did have a meeting with the town manager, and I feel like now that you guys are on that stretch of really planning to break ground and have a plan, I believe we need to put a timeline on signing those contracts and finalizing that language. You're gonna be asking us to sign, and I remember I was the abutter of the septic tank, so I got notified. So I know we're gonna go through some permitting, but I think in my mind, at least as a chair, is things that I'm trying to keep track of with all the projects that we have. If we could maybe put in timeline to finalize that contract, I think you guys, know where you stand, what you're gonna need from us.
Okay,
And I think the
yep.
Park Commission has been very clear what we're looking for, which it didn't put any extra financial strains on the project, which is great. And hopefully we're gonna be moving forward with engineering. So hopefully there will be things that we are doing on our project that will facilitate the construction of your project. So it'll be great
Okay,
if all
yep.
things happen together.
Yeah.
But I think it would be great if we could put a timeline on that.
Okay,
And that way is, we know where we stand and we can easily tell the town and the residents that, some of those details have been finalized. So I
Okay.
ask you to, maybe offline if over the next, as we look to get the signing the permits, maybe at the same time we can be finalizing the language and putting that in place so that way before you break ground, all that's in place.
we agree wholeheartedly with that. I think that's great suggestion.
Okay.
Thank you for keeping that in focus, and we'll work that into our schedule.
Okay.
And perhaps it's time to sort of dust off those conversations. I know we had a meeting with, I think Karen was there, Anthony, myself, the town manager, and Adam Costa, town council, I think, and probably time to dust off those notes too, and just start working towards a document, even if we can get something drafted. But we'll definitely we will definitely suggest a schedule for that.
Okay, that's great. The last thing, and I think this is something that I saw a little bit, and maybe Anthony can speak a little bit. I did see, and I think other members of the commission saw that you guys you were selling naming rights in order to do fundraising, and I love that. But I just want to remind you that anything that's naming rights within a park, it would be of this commission discretion. And I would you have a very supportive commission, but it would be great for us to work together so that, whatever plan we have for that. And I think we fully support you guys in your project. So it'd just be wise to do this, whatever plan we have for it, to make a plan and work together to get there. Believe me, if you get $100,000 for your project, I think you're going to get a lot of people in this commission behind you, but let's have a conversation prior to the events happening. That's my ask on that.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. And the one thing that I don't think any of us needs to worry about or deal with is that we're pretty much all the way to our fundraising goal. We're like 94% of the way there.
That's awesome.
And nobody to date has expressed any interest in having any naming rights to the facility. And as of right now, we're going with an extremely original approach. We're going to call it the Lunenburg Skate Park. Seemed fitting. So that's what we've worked into the design. And like I said, if you take a look at the Facebook page and go zoom in, and you can see where both our logo and the name is actually worked into the park, both in the walls as well as some of the obstacles. It's rather tasteful. And like you said, it doesn't require us to have any sort of conversation like that.
Right. But I'm still hopeful that you can sell someone on giving you a couple $100,000 to your project.
We don't need it. It's a great idea, but fortunately we don't need it.
Sure.
So
okay.
Yeah.
All right. I think Karen has
even the folks that have donated significant. Hang on, you're off mute. Even the folks that have donated significant dollars to the project that have entitled them to naming rights have politely declined and said, no, I'm really not interested.
That's
Okay.
wonderful. That's great.
So I'm
Um,
sorry, Greg, do you want to say something?
I think Karen has a question.
Yeah, I was just real quick,
Oh, go
gonna
ahead.
say that, yeah, certainly if someone pops out of the woodwork next week and says, hey, we want to write you a check for $50,000, we'll gladly take it. But I think what
Right.
Anthony's saying is we're getting towards the end here. So it's good. It's good news.
No, that's great. Karen,
So I have two things. One's more commission driven and working off what Anna had said a little bit ago about starting to execute the right of entry. So I think as a Parks Commission, one of us, all of us, I don't care how it works, with probably Chris Ruth, should have another sit down with town council. Because some of the wording is going to come directly from them. This is what they've done. And then I think that's something that we should present to the skate park and then sort of work through any other details that need to be worked through. But I definitely think it's something that the Parks Commission should start. And my next thing is, and this is more, if we are truly looking, Anthony and Greg, at possibly July, August groundbreaking on this, what is the estimated time of completion once the ground is broken?
Anthony's having trouble hearing you, so I'll try to field that. And just for Anthony's sake, he's sitting right across the table. Karen's question was, what's the estimated construction time frame from start to finish once we break ground? The answer to that question is I really don't know. So that's why I'm feeding you, Anthony, across the table, because I don't know.
That one.
Yeah. Hold on, I'm going to have Anthony talk to that.
So all of the construction timing estimates that we've received to date are putting this just around 90 days. And we actually have an email earlier today from the gentleman who's doing the design, and he anticipates, the total construction time, elapsed construction time, to be between 2 and 3 months. I'm going to err on the side of caution. I think 3 months is a safe bet. If it goes over a week or two, but it's going to be generally in that neighborhood.
Okay.
So if we start in July, we're done in October.
Okay, so the next thing, and this is probably going to be more of a parks related thing, especially since the boys are, and by boys, I mean the students that worked on this project are going to be heading off to college, and that's, we're going to need to, if there's any rules or regulations, that policy that we need to create around this park, it's something that we should probably start putting some energy into, so that when the park is ready to open, we will have whatever our beginning.
Karen, I couldn't agree more. This is actually something we've been working on diligently for the last 5 years. We have been capturing pictorially rules and regulations from probably 50 some odd area parks. And we've also been obviously speaking with the folks at Tony Hawk Foundation about best practices in this area. So whenever you guys, or however you guys would like to engage on this, we've got lots of content that we can use to drive that discussion.
Okay.
And then, at some point, we'll need to incorporate some sort of signage in the area, to convey those rules as well. So all of that'll be part of our final design.
Great. Anna, Dave has a question too.
Yeah.
Please, Dave.
Hey, Anna. Gregor Roy, with that July start date, excuse me, does that include tree removal? You're gonna wait till then? Because I was under the impression you were gonna do that sooner rather than later, and you're gonna need right of entry for the tree removal, I would expect.
Yeah, thanks. Great question, Dave. Yeah, we would like to do tree removal as soon as possible. Obviously, we do not want to put the cart before the horse. As we said, months ago when we came before you last, that we want the commission to be very comfortable with our financing picture, and our ability to complete the project that we have designed. So we want to have a complete design before we have that. We want to have a good understanding on pricing, We also need to have the Conservation Commission permit, the order of conditions in place, which is why we'd really like to get that. That's something we can get out of the way here early, so that that's behind us. But yes, for that reason, Anna's suggestion that we start thinking about the agreement, contract, right of entry document is very important, because we certainly wouldn't want to do it, I don't think, before we had that in place. So
Yeah,
great question, Dave, and I think yeah.
Yeah, the only other concern I have, Greg, is, and it sounds like it's gonna end up being towards the end of most of the ball seasons, is that if it was done over this winter season, then it would not have interfered with anything. But if you push into the spring, then you're gonna be interfering with the height of the ball season, whatever that turns out to be at Marshall, given the condition of Powell Field right now. So, later in the spring and early summer, tree removal is probably going to be more practical.
Yeah, understood, Dave. The good news is it's in a portion of the park that's not really used for. I mean, obviously there's some use of the playground equipment and things, but and the tree removal, we have talked to a few tree removal companies, or a few tree guys, for lack of a better word. And it's a 1 to 2 day project to remove those trees, so it's not a huge heavy lift. But yeah, certainly we need to, we understand it, park activities are important, and yeah, if we're looking to start this thing in July, there's no reason why we have to get the trees done, in the height of baseball season, right? So, we can definitely, it's a great comment. I guess we'll make sure we keep it in mind, and anything we do, of course, we'd be running by you for scheduling and things, to make sure that we're not scheduling to do something on a day when the Parks Commission has scheduled a huge jamboree or something in the park where there's going to be a lot of people.
I
So.
can promise you, we won't be planning some big jamboree, but that's
All right,
a good thought.
fair enough.
Right. Any other questions for Anthony or Greg? All right.
No.
I think it looks great, guys.
Any comments? Pat,
And
do you
if
have
I
any?
could make one comment, and I said this to Anthony when I left the meeting there the other night. If you guys get a chance to get involved with any of the meetings that these boys have with their architect, and listen to them talk and what they've learned about skate parks, they held their own with that designer. And I see these kids as future designers of skate parks, as something they could do as professionally. They're incredible. They've really learned every aspect of it. So
We've certainly spent a lot of time on Dave. Appreciate the appreciation. And Chris, thanks for the positive feedback.
All right, Pat, do you have anything? No? Okay. Chris?
No, I don't have anything.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Pat. And you got a microphone. Chris Sullivan, do you have anything?
No, I think it looks great. I've been kind of watching the Facebook page. I love the kind of the Lunenburg nuances of the design. I think it's that's a great ad. And yeah, just to echo, Dave's sentiment, the kids have been, long time coming here. We're six or so years into this deal with these kids. They've been impressive to watch. So congrats on all the efforts so far, and looking forward to next stage.
That's great. Yeah. All right. Well, Anthony, thank you for coming, and Greg, thank you for coming and giving us this update. And I guess we'll be talking offline to just hopefully get that contract going. And but I think we all have each other's email address, so I'm sure we'll be able to get something done, perhaps even before the next meeting. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much. As always, we try to say at every meeting, we really feel like this is a partnership between us and you folks and the town at large. And we feel like you guys are really treating it as such too. So we really appreciate that. And we will certainly be in touch. over the next week or so. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Greg. All right, and now we're on with our next item of the agenda, which is another appointment, 7:30 with Greg from the Lunenburg Youth Baseball League. And I invited him here to give us an update about what's going on with baseball. And Greg, while you are here, you also, I don't know if you have met Chris Ruth, but he's our new facilities director. So yeah, welcome to the meeting and please have the floor.
Looking for.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's really honored to be able to meet some of you folks and learn some of the connections and people to communicate to make this thing successful. Chris, welcome, man. We're real excited to get some this relationship and the communication going and build a program that I'm sure your father and I'm very familiar, played a lot of years of baseball, played Little League 40 years ago, you know, right up there at Marshall Park. And man, real exciting to hear the news that you're on board to oversee and really help out all year round, not just baseball. I know that. So, so this is my first year working with this program. And if you haven't heard, we've made some moves. I am a product of Lunenburg baseball, literally, 40, 45 years ago. And still at this age have so many things that those years impacted me, relationships and things I learned from sports. And I do have my degrees in sport management from Liberty University. I'm a sports guy through and through. And more so, I've learned over the years to really use sports to develop young people to be excellent citizens and the things that sports bring. And baseball is just one of my loves. So I'm excited and honored to serve the youth and the families of Lunenburg and to be in this position. One of the first moves we made, we've been in Little League for almost 50, if not 50 years. Some of the things that had been happening over the last couple of years, really unavoidable. Lot of lack of participation, teams dwindling, towns losing programs, to where we really saw, we were in the valley, I would say, last year, where we only had 2 teams represented at the Major League Baseball level and the minor league baseball level, where we had carried 6, 7, 8 teams apiece, not that many years before, but definitely pre-COVID. And then we're fighting with some other obstacles to get kids participating. We were playing Leominster, who was in the Little League program, who had dissolved really their complete north, south. They were such a thriving program forever. And they ended up paring down to 3 teams. So our Lunenburg teams were able to play Leominster multiple times a year, to where we were really outmanned. We got mercied almost every game on both levels, and in the minor leagues and major leagues. And then we played each other 5 times. We felt as though the kids were losing some part of the spirit of the game, the competition, what it takes just from practice all the way through gameplay to really teach. And an opportunity came up to join the Babe Ruth League, which is another national league. And we play now in the Cal Ripken League. The Cal Ripken League opened the door for our teams to play up to 14 different teams all in our backyards. Teams like Townsend and Groton, Shirley, Ayer. I think Harvard is involved with that. Teams that I don't know if we've played, we used to years and years ago in different leagues, high school especially, but this door was opened. The league was running very, very strong, and it just offered an opportunity where we wouldn't really have to travel. And at times we'd pick up a game out in Barrie or just teams further out west once in a while. So this just gave us a lot of stability. It gave us an opportunity to offer the kids something, a little more pride if we only have the 1 or 2 teams in each division to really represent Lunenburg. But starting to grow the program, our goal and my goal, our goal as a board is to, I've seen the last 4 or 5 years of baseball and some of the things we've lost. Some of the things that I might point to is follow through from adults mixed with COVID, mixed with just bad timing. And we've got a board that's really excited to really feel like this is our first year, fresh, new. We've got a board that's excited and mission-minded, that understands the mission of sports, especially baseball, that we want to build an excellent program that develops our young people to love the game, but to accentuate and emphasize character building qualities, teammanship, loyalty, sacrifice, win, lose, or draw, being part of something bigger than yourself. And I feel like there's a handful of people that are very excited to try to not just resuscitate the game, but resuscitate the spirit of the game. So to have those family events, get our scoreboards running again, get our fields in tip-top shape, which I know that's going to be a topic some tonight, but to really be invested with our volunteers. And we're so excited that Anna has reached out and been so gracious to connect with us. And now to know that Chris is involved. And we really feel like, from what I've heard over the years, guys who've been involved for 10, 15 years, one major concern that they've had, if I can be transparent, is they feel just a lack of communication or lack of contact, just a disconnect. And early on already, we feel like that's different. And I can't attest, I hadn't spent too many years on that side of things or evaluating, but I do know how, again, Anna has opened the door and been so welcome to hear our needs, relay them quickly, advocate for us. And we're just so excited. Our young people are numbers wise, our T-ball programs, our minor league programs are going to be boasting 4 or 5 teams, 6 teams apiece. And that's something we really want to build on. We've noticed over the years, we're losing kids right after that level to where it just dissipates down to 1 and 2 teams. Softball is more thriving at the older level. We're excited about continuing to grow that, have a strong board of committed people. But we're really excited to partner more with the town, and everything from having timely information, our opening day parades, we want to do with excellence. The things that we do have, the limited resources, well, I think we have wonderful resources, but just to really push and use the resources we have. They might need some patching up, and I know there's big plans in place, but with what we have, we're just excited to make the most of it and really draw the kids back and the families back to this game and the spirit of the game. So thank you guys. I am a lifelong baseball guy, and I'm so excited to grow these young people and to get into 4, 5, 6 years of their development as good citizens, friends, teammates. And hey, who knows, kid from Leominster just went to the Super Bowl. So you never know, but we'll grow the love for the game. And I really feel like the door is open to partner with you guys. So thank you for having me tonight.
Yeah, I mean, that's great, Greg. Thank you. And thank you for coming. I mean, if it's okay, I was gonna open to the board to see if they have any questions, comments. Okay. Anyone on the board have any?
I do.
Oh.
I'm too lazy to find the button to push.
All right,
Welcome,
go
Greg. It's exciting to see some new faces come in on the baseball side. I have one comment and then just some follow-up questions. So when I came onto this commission, I don't even know anymore, 5, 6 years ago, communication is and has always been important to me. And we just weren't getting the two-way street. I think that some former board members thought we were trying to be difficult. It's not what we were. We're trying to make your program work while on town fields and just trying to make sure we knew what everybody needed and when they needed it. We had coaches in the past couple of years when there was an issue with the field reach out. I don't care where it comes from. If there's an issue going on, whether it be you as the league president or as, one of the assistant coaches down on a T-ball team that sees something, the see something, say something motto continues on to our field. So I'm looking forward to continuing having some, great communication moving forward. One of the things that I had noticed and read in the ledger is that you guys made the move from the Little League to Cal Ripken. Are your field needs going to be different going forward? Because I know the field size requirements can be different. And although Cal Ripken says they're recommended, I'm trying to get an idea of what you guys are thinking on that front.
Yeah, I appreciate that. That it is a consideration. It is an open door to a little different style. There's 2 divisions. The only one field would be affected, and that would be the lower field Powell. Thankfully, that field's already been built with the capability to shift both on the fly regularly as needed. So one division is called the 60, and that's your traditional Major League Baseball. But what the national trend is more what's called the 70 division, which is more in tune with Babe Ruth rules And it really creates those kids who are at the 11 and 12-year-old or who are really advanced get to play the style of baseball that is baseball. Some differences might be leading of the bases. The base paths are a little wider. That's what that 60 and 70 represent. But again, our fields are already equipped, or the field that we would play on is already equipped for that. There'd have to be no like major renovations made. Mike Wright has had that one since he's been working some with that field, assured us that those fields are capable right from day one to be able to
Okay.
accommodate both divisions.
And what about McNally for the minor league? Do you-
Yes, there's no distances or requirements. Our McNally field is set for regular gameplay.
Okay, thank you.
Dave, do you have any comments since you're right there?
Nothing additional to what Karen asked for questions. I am excited to see a move to try to build the program back up again. We've, Karen and I, especially over the last couple of years as chair and vice chair previous to this year, spent a lot of time going over the numbers and trying to figure out, how you guys were going to survive with the numbers that you had. And this is exciting to see that this may be a way to turn that all around.
Wonderful. We're very hopeful, and we know how important that is. So there's a lot of behind the scenes. We've had a lot of support. So I believe some of the activities we want to propose, some of the family unifying things between the program, softball and baseball, is paramount for me personally. I'm somebody to celebrate the ladies individually and their accomplishments, and celebrate the young men individually and their accomplishments, and then love to promote unifying and supporting Lunenburg. I love school spirit. I'm excited for them to represent those programs. I've been in contact with Bob Rabuccio, who's been gracious enough to start bridging and giving us varsity players for our clinics we just started, to really start to have the kids look up to those Lunenburgians, those older kids. And he's been, Bob understands, Coach Booch understands, and who he coached me when I was 12, to be honest with you. But he understands that we really want to be something where we're a funnel and a channel of school spirit, pride, Lunenburg pride, just some of the fun stuff that make a community and make good citizens. So we're very hopeful, and we've got a lot planned, not just for baseball, but for families.
That's great. Chris Sullivan, do you have any comments?
Sure, yeah. Congrats on the move. It sounds like it's going to be a great, a great thing for baseball and softball in town. I know my kids have a lot of friends. My daughter and my son both have a lot of friends that play baseball and so forth. So it's exciting to see what could lead to some growth here and so forth, and go from there. The thing that jumped out for me, like I saw the article and had shared that with Anna, and noticed like things that jumped out were things that you're talking about, like events and so forth, special events, things like that, to create a little more community around that. And so it kind of just feeds into the communication piece, which I think both sides here are advocating for really good communication. It's just making sure that we have a schedule in place and we have permits in place, or whatever needs to happen for whatever things you might be thinking about. Making sure that both sides are communicating, we have everything done in a timely manner and so forth. We have worked, this commission in recent years has really strived to create policy for our parks that hasn't existed for a long time. And so I'm sure, I'm hoping it's been passed along to you a little bit from predecessors and so on, that there are certain policies that parks have in place in regards to, porta potties and trash and things like that. So we just want to make sure that we start off on the right foot that way as your season gets underway here, coming up here in just a couple of months, month and a half probably or so. And making sure that we have all that stuff, well ironed out and squared away. So again, that feeds into the communication piece, but I think we're all on the same page on that. Again, welcome to the post, and looking forward to positive things for you guys for sure.
Appreciate that. Thank you. There, and this type of position is new for me, I mean, I had a lot of leadership in athletics over the years. It's a little different. There may be some things I don't know that I don't know. It definitely won't be for lack of wanting that communication and reaching out. I think you'll find very easy to deal with, to try to do it the right way. I do have a complete count. I wouldn't honestly, thank you, Anna, for inviting me here. I wouldn't even have known to start, except for like the scheduled field use. There's some things now meeting you and seeing you, I'd love to be able to share. We do have a complete calendar, our website. I've wanted to do some things early to get them out there and to try to not last second people, to get them convinced to come play and marinate on it, try some new things. So I would love to share our complete calendar with you, give you access to see what we're planning. There are some things I know I'm going to need permission for. I know food, but I have ideas that I'd love to be able to get feedback or see if there's possibilities. Things I know that food has always been a tough topic because of Board of Health, but are there opportunities to, what would it take to get ice cream trucks and food trucks, just so families have meal opportunities and just fun? I mean, just things that we can, do they get a permit or are they going to charge me up front? I'm digging into this, but I'd love to run those ideas by you. We want to have, field cleanup days, of course. So our volunteers can help the town hand in hand take care of our backyard. But home run derby or family, moms versus the kids, there's so many little things we'd like to do. I'd love to share, even have you a part of. The parade is a big deal for me. We're on the hunt for Lunenburg's oldest living baseball players that can march, and reaching out to the elementary schools to see if the little guys can draw pictures of opening day, anything to wedge in this parade, and trying to convince a high school band teacher to let the band play. I don't care if they play the Star Spangled Banner 30 times until we get the Marshall. It would be fun. So, I mean, I'm open to ideas. We have some awesome people on board, but I would listen to any, and I want to make sure that everything's done on the up and up. So, and that I get permission and full transparency. And maybe now, whether it be through Anna or any of you, that would be a contact that I could share regularly, ideas and thoughts, and make sure we're doing it right. I'd love to be, if someone could make sure I have that contact information, but I'd love to include you in everything.
Yeah, Greg, what I can do is I can send you some information about how to kind of do an email to everyone. And maybe you and I can have another Zoom meeting and just go over some of your plans where you and I can kind of strategize and create an idea of where we can take things. And then I can work with the commission with other commissioners to help you deliver some of those things. So
Perfect. Thank you.
All right.
And I have some Board of Health knowledge too, Greg, if that's helpful to you. And
Yeah,
like I totally get the Board of Health piece. It's, just
that would be
not,
such a help because I don't.
but I'm happy to help with that. We've gotten permitting to do, we opened a snack shack a few years ago over at Wallace Park, and I've had quite a few conversations with Neshoba Board of Health on behalf of, at one point, it was before you, when we were trying to figure out what could and could not be done with the snack shack over at Marshall. So I'm happy to
Good.
share any of that knowledge too. So feel free to reach
Yes,
out
ma'am.
as well.
Awesome. Thank you.
Anna, do
Oh,
you want to
another
send
quick
him the
one, Anna.
policies for,
Oh, I'm
have you
sorry.
sent have you sent the
Go ahead.
policies over yet for parks and so forth?
They're
That'd probably be
posted on the
helpful
website. I'll be sure to send him a copy, but yeah.
Yeah, it'd just be probably helpful to kind of share that.
Sure.
Yes, please.
Pat, do you have any? Are you a former baseball player that you can go in the parade?
I
Are you
am
the
not from
oldest baseball
Lunenburg there.
player?
As a sports fan in general, but I know baseball is down, and to hear that we have so much in the little kids is reassuring that maybe baseball will be back in town. So I concur with everybody and welcome aboard, and we look forward to
Thank you.
working with you.
Pat, my 5-year plan, this is throwing it up in the sky, brother. I'm not kidding. I'd love to see us have an intramural league again, where we
Oh, yeah.
have our own 6 teams that we can support. Kids having fun again, families having fun. So, hey, and I'm hit and run you someday lights. You can already say no, but yeah, I'd love to see excellence
It would be.
over
would be
there.
great.
And as long as we're all striving for that, it'll be a good product no matter what we can do.
Yep.
Karen, do you have you or Dave have another comment?
Dave does.
Yeah, I
Um,
just have a question, and Anna, this is kind of directed at you as well as Greg. and you may have something more to report in your chair's report a little later in this meeting. But I'm just wondering if the Baseball Association has a backup plan in case Powell Field is out of commission for the entire season. I don't know where that stands. I've heard both extremes could happen. And I'd hate to have you guys blindsided with your plans already all figured out and then find out Powell Field is off limits for the season.
So, Greg, before you jump in, I just want to, I haven't got to my chair update yet.
Right.
We've been having a lot of conversations, and a few members of the Little League, not the Little League, let me rephrase that, of the Youth Baseball League in Lunenburg, they have offered some work. We have, the town has different quotes, and so we, right now, and Chris is already aware of the situation. He already has all the copies of the quotes, and he knows all the information, and we're in constant communication. And Chris knows that Chris is really the person who will be responsible for coordinating the work. But he's in contact with the people in the Little League that have volunteered time to help get this done. And what I heard is from people that know the process is that I think Mike Wright said that you were trying to get Greg the first few games away. So I like to speak, but I just want to say that yes, there's a lot of communications happening, and I'm hoping that Chris will give us an update on the plan. But everyone is on the loop. Everybody has each other's email. But Greg, go ahead with your plans for the scheduling.
Well, right now, that really is just, honestly, most of it's going to be a matter of funding. And if it's timely funding, there's a better chance than not that we could start on time. But as a fail-safe, I've requested from the Cal Ripken League, our division, that our first 3 games at least would buy us 3 weeks additional to make sure that it's a sturdy fix and that we don't care money spent. So I believe that we don't have teams due until March 26th. That's when we submit our official how many teams, and then they come out with an official first round of the scheduling that next week. So that's about the amount of time that from there I would probably a month before we actually start our season or need a home game. But again, I can refer you to this to have the calendar to take a look exactly what timeline we would love to have with us moving some games out. Because it is only that field. It would only disrupt the major league programs. The girls are fine. The softball programs, no problem. Minor leagues, no problem. T-ball and instructional, or now we call it the rookie league. No problems at all with those fields. Well, I don't know if Fitzgerald, that'll be updated. But really the impact right now is the major league program.
So if I can jump in on this one a little, guys, can everyone hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Greg, first of all, thank you for the welcome. I'm sure for everyone involved in baseball in town, I think everyone knows my dad and knows baseball is in my blood just from that. I've been helping to take care of Marshall Park as long as I can remember, being dragged along to help weed, and I've mowed the lawn over there a couple times before games. So I'm certainly invested in the program and making sure you guys have a place to play. As far as Powell Field goes, between Mike and the folks over at Lakeview have already done what they can to try to help. I've got a bit of a relationship with the Powell family, so I actually reached out to them, and they weren't aware of much of the damage. So they're looking at it right now and seeing what they can do to help along with the other folks. And, hopefully we can, funding wise, try to get the number as low as possible to get it fixed. The Powells have been donating quite a bit to the town over the years. My only concern is going to be, once we get the ruts fixed, we plant the grass, there's going to be a little bit of time before it's really established. But I just talked to the Powells this week and they were heading out to look at it. So hopefully I'll have a better update soon on that.
This
That's a
weather
wonderful
holds.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
not all that often
can
we
we
get
plant
60
tomorrow?
Right.
Tomorrow around 2:00 when it's 67.
Apparently, we don't have much of a winter left, so this season may be to our advantage, the fact that we didn't really have much snow. So fingers crossed, with our luck, we'll get some torrential downpours and the fields will be too wet to play, and Powell doesn't have the drainage to begin with. So hopefully, yeah, hopefully. And just real quick, Chris, while we're on the subject of Powell, can you make sure when the main gate gets opened into that parking lot, that it's actually locked? The gate to Powell Field is actually locked so that somebody can't let themselves in again?
Yes, yep, that's something we need to figure out the best way to handle that going forward, so it doesn't happen again.
Okay,
Softball field has access too, if somebody really wanted to, because those gates are not well secured.
and Honor and I found out over the weekend or last week that Fitzgerald actually is completely.
All right, that's an agenda for later.
Yes, exactly.
No, this is great. So Greg, it's been, I appreciate you coming, and I definitely appreciate you being open to communicating and working with us. I think, I think you have got the idea that I am, we are a baseball family in my house. And, but overall, more than anything, I think I would be an advocate for any sport in town, any group, especially youth leagues. I share a lot of the passions that you do. So, I think we have a lot of good things going for us, really good group of people. I'm excited that Chris is a baseball guy because most of our parks are baseball, so it's in his blood. But, one last ask I have, Greg, I was going to send you an email, but since you're here, there is a chance, it is very likely that next week on Tuesday night, we'll be presenting to the select board to tell them to give us money. They're sitting on $3.5 million that we asked for $2 million to be for Marshall. And we already got the money for engineering from the town last November. We're working on, and meanwhile, we're working on getting schematic designs. So, I think on our first conversation, you said something you didn't really, at the time, you didn't really believe that Marshall Park renovation would happen. And I'm telling you, it will happen. So the more support that we have, the more likely we are to get this project going and finished. So if next week, if you or other people from the Little League would join us at the town hall during our presentation, I'll send you the information. But if you could send an email to all Little League families and say, please show up, because showing that we have the town support and the resident support is really what tells the select board that this should be a priority for them as well. So it's my plan to knock on everybody's door on Chestnut Street, do what I've been doing, and it'll be great if we could get more little baseball folks there. So that's the question. That's the ask. You're muted. I cannot hear you.
And I do want to clarify, it's not, it wasn't that I thought it wouldn't get done. But to be honest, I wasn't sure if it should get done. And I'm a huge sports guy.
Oh,
And my point was watching excellent resources that we do have. Of course, it needs upkeep. Of course, there's some things, but I've watched from the basketball courts on the lower baseball field that have been just abandoned for years, to watching our snack shacks from McNally and Marshall just dilapidated. Sometimes judgmentally, I point the finger at adults letting that happen, not carrying through with enthusiasm, not, paying attention to details. And I almost felt like instead of putting so much money into a project to beautify it, if we just showed to be good stewards of what we have and really, I love a new project. Oh, it's going to be beautiful. But my point at the time was, we've got to show we have awesome resources, and we let those things go. And we let, some of them are structural beyond us, but a lot of them were in our control. And from whatever reason, and that was kind of my angle, is to say, why spend that much why don't we show? And you assured me we're not doing anything until we show we take care of our backyard. And that was a big selling point to me too. I know you're serious about it, but no, the project's gonna be beautiful. I don't hold anyone back. I just want to make sure we don't just patch something up with some money and then that plan, we're gonna need them same adults to always polish it, shine, make it clean it, keep it relevant. you know,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. And that was my end. But I'm very enthused and will represent Tuesday enthusiastically, you know,
That's
for
great.
support
Yeah.
for it.
And you know, and I think, like you said, like we can point at adults, it's never the kid. You know, the town has gone from being fully volunteer to now transitioning to town participating more. And
Yeah.
and volunteers, I mean, you're in sports, you know, sometimes you get some very enthusiastic volunteers and you get a
Yep.
new baseball field built. And
Right.
then you barely get people that come to, you know, put down the lines before the game starts. And
Yep, you
and
got it.
there's different things that happen. So, but you know, the reality is some of these structures that we have are just, there's no patching anymore, and we just
Right,
got to do a
right.
good job.
Yeah, I've
Um,
seen, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's good. All right.
Well, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for coming, and I appreciate, and you're welcome to always join us, and I'll keep you in touch with everything.
Anna, thank you. Nice to meet all of you. Please reach out with
You too.
anything
Well, have a great night.
and
Thank
I'll
you.
do the same. Have a good night.
All right. So the next item on the agenda is the town manager or facility director update. So we have Chris here. And Chris, you have the floor.
All right, well, since this is my first update, I'll just go over the few things that we have parks related. We did interview today a rec director position. We also have a couple more tomorrow. Another update is the town beach house. The wall has been replaced and sided. I believe they're starting to sheet rock tomorrow, but we'll be wrapping up that project in the next couple of weeks here. The warm weather is actually helping us quite a bit because once you put the sheetrock up, you have to mud and tape it all, and can't beat 60 in February for that. Another update related, I guess, to the baseball is, you know, I understand there's been some complaints over the years as far as, you know, the conditions of the field and the landscapers not having things ready for them. It sounds like we've got a good team together to make sure we all know the schedules, and I can work with the landscaper to make sure that we don't run into those issues anymore. Other than that,
Have you been in touch with the landscaper yet, or?
I put a call into him. I didn't get a hold of him yet. I was trying to gather all of the complaints. What it sounds like is, you know, I landscape for years, so I know what they're doing. They're just hitting it quick with the mowers. They're not trimming the edges. They're not putting the effort in. They're treating it like they're just mowing a field. So I'm going to go through that with the landscapers. It looks like the current company is under contract until June of next year. So we're kind of stuck with what we got, but I'm sure, you know, if we communicate well with them and let them know what our expectations are and what they should have been from the start, I think we'll be in much better shape.
Anna, can I throw something in to Chris?
Yeah.
Two things, Chris. So, we noticed last year when we were going through the landscaping contract, that was, the dates in there are sort of, I don't know, they just seem to be random dates. So things like the beach opening, like the dates for that beach cleanup, but then also like the youth baseball program and the high school varsity and JV program starting, they don't always coincide with what's in that landscaping contract. So you may want to like look at some of that stuff, especially about, you know, around opening of the season, where this year seems to be such a mild winter. The other comment I have is actually on also landscaping, but not years ago, but I don't know, 3 years ago, one of the complaints that we had gotten was on fertilizing and lawn treatment. It had been done and then no notice had been given to anybody. So like the complaint was that their kids were out there on fields that had, you know, newly been treated. So if we could, or you could, you know, make sure that the landscaping companies, when they do anything like that, are letting you know when they're about to do a treatment to the lawn, so that we can notify or you can notify youth sports as well as the high school. And I think the high school, and I could be incorrect on this, but I think they have something where anytime their fields are fertilized, they have to there's like notification that goes out or something. So just where they're using our fields, I think they like to keep that consistent. So if we can notify the school and then the youth sports when
Yep.
there's chemical treatments.
If I could
Yeah.
add just a little bit to that, Chris, before you comment. Back then, the previous DPW director had put the fields under a turf management contract. I don't believe that part of care of the turf is in the present contract, but I could be wrong. And that's where the problems ran into. They were doing periodic fertilizations, they were doing drug treatments, they were doing all kinds of things. And I'm sure you're aware that the 90-foot diamond infield was, they put down sod one, I think it was October, if I remember correctly. We had another one of those warm winters and they sodded that whole thing. And then from there forward for 2 or 3 years, it was under turf management. So just a little extra fill-in.
Yeah, I heard some of that history of, between Gatsby Grounds and Powell, they've put a lot of work in there. And then, the first time they sodded the field, it wasn't taken care of well, and they had to do it again. And as far as the fertilizer goes, I'm a little surprised that the landscaping company did that, but it's something that we should follow up on. I mean, one of the biggest things for landscapers is a lot of the guys that mow fields and mow lawns avoid the landscaping purely because of the insurance requirements that go with fertilizing.
Right.
And it's also best practice not to just put it down on a schedule. You typically, ideally you want to put it down the day before it rains, or, the day it's going to rain. So it doesn't get, you don't waste it. The rain soaks it into the soil, helps the grass quicker, and actually makes it safer for the kids on the field. They're also supposed to be tagging it, little stakes in the ground every time they do it. So I'll add that to my list of things that they should be taking care of and notifying us. And, ideally I'd like a rough schedule of, we're going to put it down this many times these weeks, and then kind of narrow down the day based off the weather. If it's anything like last summer where we didn't get a ton of rain, we, can't do that, but we got to keep the fields going.
Thank you.
Okay, Chris, do you have other updates, or? I don't wanna
That's
interrupt you.
all I have for the moment. I apologize if it's not as much as you typically have, but
No, that's okay. Can I ask you a few things? I know you and I and Heather met last week, and I saw some updates on, you and I have exchanged some emails.
Yep.
The punch list from the spreadsheet of those park items, some maintenance items, those had come from Greg. When we met, you hadn't seen them yet, because I had just added them just then.
Yep.
Did you have a chance to take a look? What are your thoughts?
I took a quick look. I have not had a chance to get over to the field yet. I'm hoping to do that. Fridays are kind of a quiet day for me in the office, since most of the offices are closed. So I was going to take some of that time to go and actually get eyes on all of that to come up with a plan.
All right, any movement on the McNally Snack Shack?
I talked to the contractor we got the initial price for. I'm going to reach out to one more person who's local and see if they have any interest in it, to see if we can save a few bucks. And if not, we'll have to go with the original contractor and get it down.
Okay,
And that,
and the timeline for before opening season, that's still good?
we'll get it down one way or the other before the season starts.
Okay, all right. Okay, I don't think I have anything else in terms of question. You and I are talking about changing emails and different things, but those are the terms general updates, and I think you covered them all. Chris Sullivan, do you have any questions for Chris Ruth? Comments?
No, not at this point. Thanks for the updates. Maybe we just get a few people to go lean over on that snack shack, just lean against the wall. It could probably just
I wonder if we
get to
could
go
sell
and
boards off of it.
save a little more money.
Chris, maybe we could sell some boards off of it and make some profit for Marshall. We could raffle them off. Probably not a good idea, but termites.
Might make it more difficult to take it apart that way, but
That is true.
we'll get
That
one
is
going
true.
there. Yeah.
Chris, Ruth, one thing I'll mention is there is a group in town called the Friends of McNally Park, and there is a sign that's on that snack shack. that they ask if it's possible when it's being demolished for that sign to be saved.
I saw that and I was out there last week. The sign might have been taken down when they took down the staircase.
It's in the front.
Oh, it's in the
Was
front.
there- Yeah, it was there.
I
last
could
time.
just take a look at my pictures and see.
Chris, the one you're seeing on the ground is the one they took down and put up that new
Oh,
replacement
gotcha.
at the street.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
we'll make
still
sure the
up
one
on
on
the
the front
building.
can get saved.
Okay, thank you. Pat, do you have any comments? for
Nope,
Chris?
nope, not right now.
All right. All right, Chris. Well, thank you for coming and giving us your update. Good luck with everything on your new job. And I know, you had that meeting that lasted like an hour and a half, and like, it was a lot of information. We appreciate you putting your work in, and I know there's some big projects that you're going to be overseeing, and we appreciate your special, you're in the field of construction, so we're counting on you to help us through this.
Yep.
Looking forward to working with you.
Thank you.
All
Do you need me
right.
to stick around for any of the Marshall Park plans?
No, I think the rest of our meeting should be okay. But if
Okay.
anything comes up, I'll share with you.
All right, just shoot me an email, anything you need.
All right. Thank you, Chris. Have a good night.
Thanks, you too.
One thing, if the commission's okay, I'm gonna move the chair update up just because we are in the spirit of updates. So on chair updates, one thing was I did receive, the first thing is I received a list from Greg and the folks from the Youth Baseball League with projects that they had requested to be done on the fields. Karen, can you open that and maybe on the spreadsheet or give me the right to share? And we had,
The right to share, because.
okay, so I'll do that. So we have that spreadsheet that has parks projects and we had talked about only adding items to that spreadsheet if after we talked in the meeting. But because I had a scheduled meeting with Chris and Heather, I kind of want to go over some of those projects. So I just want to go over with the commission about it. And if you guys would like me to take it out, I'll take it out, but I was just trying to communicate those requests to Chris last week. So everything that's here were things that we have spoken about it. When we start here in Powell Field, these are the items that came from the Little League. So I can read them out loud for the purpose of the meeting. I'm not sure it's easy to read if you're on the watching this afterwards. So the Little League said that playing field on Powell Field has not been well maintained, needs raking, weeding, and lots of crabgrass growing on the infield. There's low drainage on the left side, third base, left field. I'm not sure that will be easy to address.
It's
The
not because
dugout-
Anna, the drainage wasn't. That's the drainage at that field has been an issue since that field has been constructed.
Right. In this case, I was passing the information to
Yep.
Chris. So the dugouts are in rough shape. Along the roof lines, wood is worn out and nails exposed, making unsafe for use. The bullpen, the dirt is uneven and pitching rubber is gone. So if you're a pitcher, that's also not very fun. Overgrown bush, especially along the third base. Dilapidated picnic tables have not been used for 2 to 3 years. They asked to just be removed. Scoreboard and PA system has not worked consistently for the last 2 years. We probably need an electrician to take a look. Snack Shack has broken window, and before season starts, we need to ensure sprinkler system is working properly. So those were the requests for Powell Field. And are we okay as a board that these items are here, or would you like me to remove them?
And the only comment I'd have is I question whether that window should ever be replaced. I think it should just be left covered or do a little bit better job so it looks like it was an intentional removal of a window because it just has painted plywood over it now. But I just see us putting a window back in there and having it broken out again within a year.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay. I can actually, let's see. Um,
The dugout, something like a Eagle Scout.
Yeah, I don't think it's enough, no.
Okay, all right. So
Thank-
I added that comment, Dave. Thank you.
Yep.
For Marshall Park softball field, missing yellow safety cover over the top of the fence on many sections should be, they're missing some and some should be replaced. Many gaps in the fence around the dugout and center field. Need solution for scorekeepers and the announcers. Spot, the snack shack second floor was deemed not safe. We don't know if the structure can be repaired or if it can be used equipment be moved to the first floor. The field has many uneven and even dangerous holes and divots, need grass repaired prior to season opening. And this is the high school field as well. That's an important thing to know. And infield needs another layer of dirt. So it's pretty uneven and just, that's what they had about the softball field. Any comments?
So my comment on that would be that on the fencing, we should do whatever needs to be done to make sure it's safe. I wouldn't go overboard on it though, especially if we start moving ahead, because that whole area is gonna be, that's part of the Marshall Park master planning,
Right.
you know.
So,
Hopefully.
Oh,
within
you're
a couple
talking about the
years, we'll have
fence.
new fencing going up there, so,
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's the point. Don't put $1 million into a fence now and then tear it down 2 years from now.
all right. Looking for there. Uh, Okay, that's good.
I think as far as the snack shack and so, I don't know who would give the answer if things could be used on the first floor.
I figured he would probably
We're
reach
not
out
really
to,
adept maybe at finding out what the solution would be, what would work for a softball game, but
Right.
I like whoever would analyze that, I guess, needs to check and see if they could put it on the first floor in the building and have it be safe.
yeah,
Um,
I figured he would reach out to the building inspector for that information.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we're not gonna
That's,
Yeah.
create anything permanent at this point.
discussed this
Yeah.
evening.
For McNally, the scoreboard has not worked in years, probably needs an electrician, sprinkler.
I
Yeah,
don't mean to interrupt, but can you just go back up to that the Marshall Park softball field snack shack? Can you make a note in there to have Chris follow up with probably town manager
Yes.
to verify that an inspection, whether or not an inspection's been done already? Because Dave just mentioned that he thought that that snack shack had been looked at and that there's asbestos in there. So we may just wanna, before, it may literally just need to have until it can get taken down, because I think that's the road that it's gonna end up going down. It's gonna just need to be locked and we're just gonna have to score keep from the ground. Or announce from the ground.
Anna, that was inspected the same time the building at McNally was done, because I suggested it to Heather that if the contractor's coming into town, do them both at the same time, otherwise we'd be paying double to have them done separately. That's how
Okay.
that happened.
all
And
right,
my brain doesn't work to even remember that, so.
okay. Yeah, I added that note,
Thanks.
so. Okay. McNally scoreboard has not worked, sprinkler system hasn't worked. and Snack Shack needs to be taken down. Now, when I was meeting with Chris and Heather, I did mention that that a lot of the controls for McNally are still inside of the Snack Shack. And Chris had gone to the shack and those controls are still live and the water's still connected. So what he had talked about it in the meeting with Heather was he was going to see to perhaps get a temporary, like Home Depot type of shed that he can put these items inside, just so that, because we'll need to have a place for it. So he has some ideas about it, but I don't think there's a final solution.
You can put those outside. You just need a water, just has to be watertight, but you can put a controller for a sprinkler system outside. They make watertight controllers.
Oh, okay. That's probably
So
what he
he-
was thinking.
So he
Yeah.
doesn't have to go out and buy a shed for it. He could just
Oh.
he could put a 4x4 in and mount it to the 4x4
Oh, okay.
and just,
Okay.
and not have to put it on in, so it might be cheaper than buying a shed.
But when you do that, the water needs to be shut off early in the fall so you don't freeze the whole system up, which is what happened to that system.
Right, exactly. Actually, after September, you could blow your systems out. You really shouldn't be using them, at that point.
Right.
Um,
Are you putting down, please have Pat Hakey do the work?
No, I said, please see Pat for details.
That works.
I don't know.
I
He
got
He will
enough
now
stuff
no
going on.
longer say anything. He will now no longer contribute to the
It's
conversation.
not true. It's just,
I'm kidding.
I bet you he can get on the phone with Chris and tell Chris things that Chris will know he's talking about, and I don't, and that's it. And it's a quick
Absolutely.
email. Yeah, and there is a branch from one of the trees alongside the park that's going over the street, and actually Dan Lincoln emailed me and said that the branch should probably be trimmed. I don't know why, but I made a note here and I sent Chris a picture of it. That'll be up to him. But anyway, so these are the, projects and things that are on his radar. And so far, the feedback that I had got from Bill and from Paul, who was just here for a few months, is that this actually helps them organize their work, and that for us. So, if you guys have any other thoughts for things that needs to be brought to their attention, please let me know and we can add to this.
Anna, they had nothing from Fitzgerald Field?
They didn't, but because you and Karen had gone there, we had some information for
Yeah, there should
Fitzgerald.
be some- right, the notes that we had from that, okay.
Right. But they didn't. And I did reach out to the Kevin Bigelow, he's the new AD for the schools. And I asked if there was any requests for the 9-foot diamond. And I haven't heard back from him, but I'll reach out. He was going to reach out to Coach Robucho. But I just wanted to get that also in here in case there was any kind of request. All right, let me go back to my thing. I'm gonna stop sharing now. So summer camps, I actually had spoken with Heather, if it was okay for us to try to explore some possibilities of summer camp. And she said yes. So Karen had some contacts from when she was the only show in town for Parks Commission. And she's been helping me reach out to a few places. And we have heard back from Bass Soccer. Today I spoke with MA Sports Leagues. They were the ones that had, last year we had 2 camps in town, and they were the ones that did. There were 2 camps early in the season that happened, and there were 2 camps later in the season that did not have enrollment. So I spoke with him. He's going to send me information. And I also spoke with Viking Sports, and they're at a Brookline. And they said they had been here one year and it worked out really well. And then the second year it didn't. It was during COVID. But he was going to talk with his crew, his team, and see if there was something that they could offer for us. And the plan, what I had thought is, until we get a rec director, see if we can get a few things going and planned that we can offer, since we have the facilities, and a lot of these camps tend to be self-funded. So we're putting a little labor and time into it to line up at least a few. And if we're able to do it, great. And if we hire a new rec director who can spend and offer more time on planning more, even better. But my thought was not to be overly aggressive on what to offer, because I think each grade has, I think Lunenburg probably has about 120 kids, the most per grade. I think, I could be wrong on that. Do you know, Pat? How many kids are in your kids' grade?
Some are a little bigger.
Some are a little bigger, yeah.
My daughter's class, the freshman class is big.
Mhm.
Yeah, the freshman, I think the 8th grade too.
Our
Uh,
kid's 7th grade class, I think, is back at that 120-ish kind of.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not too big, but I think the
Yeah, I know like the senior juniors aren't that big.
Okay,
But
yeah,
I
so,
think at least the freshman, maybe even the sophomore class may be big too.
okay. So I figured that, if we're able to offer, one camp for a age group, which is usually a range, is what we should start with. I'm not sure I'll have the bandwidth to try to put a lot more in place. That's just the best that I can. But if anybody wants to offer their time of contacting summer camps and see if we can nail down things, I'll take it. But my ambition was to try to do 1 or 2 camps per week the most, which probably would serve between 40 to 80 kids, depends on the camp.
The good news is they're interviewing right now too, right? I mean, so we're hopefully we have someone in place pretty,
Mhm.
pretty quickly.
Right.
And I just want to, throw it out there to anybody watching from home. Anna and I have been working together on some of this stuff, and it is our intention of having no repeats of the last few summers of last minute cancellations, and the execution of this is going to be done right from the get-go. And as we're contacting some of these places who, some of them were involved in some of the chaos of the last few years, we are promising them that we are not going to have repeats. So I know that there were some people who I had bumped into recently and brought up the fact that, we're going to bring camps in, and they were hesitant because, they had planned on camps, last summer, and they were canceled last minute, and then it sent them scrambling. We are not looking to have a repeat of that. So we are doing our due diligence to make sure that that is not going to be a possibility for the coming year. So just want to reassure anybody watching from home that that is our expectation of this. And, between Anna being detail oriented, myself being detail oriented, we're, making sure all our I's are dotted and our T's are crossed as we're moving forward with this stuff as well.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you, Karen. Yeah, so if anybody has any feedback on that, just let me know, but that's the goal, is to not be too ambitious. So I don't know if you all have heard, but Karen and I were down at Fitzgerald Field this weekend, and we noticed that snowmobilers have been using the field, and it has caused some damage on the grass. It's nothing nearly as bad as what happened at Powell Field, but it is something that should not be happening. It is vandalism. I have contacted the police, and there is a police report filed, and they will be, watching the area. That's the most they can do. But that is, I did notify the Ledger as well, and they said they will be running an article possibly next Friday just because the timing was tight. So hopefully that will bring some awareness about the vandalism that has happened on both parks. And that, I don't know what takes someone to vandalize a public park, but I don't know, public shaming without names might help deter some of that kind of behavior. But I think overall, just making, the public aware might be helpful. I can
Just
share.
so people know, yes, and Anna has some pictures to share. What,
You disabled me again.
oh, I'm sorry, I just didn't want everybody to be able to share. Hold on, let me put it back on for you. Just so people are aware of what, I believe, not everything, of course, because you should be good now, Anna.
Okay.
The outfield area of Fitzgerald Field gets a lot of sun. So a lot of that, that snow melted before some of the other stuff is. So I think part of the problem is that the snowmobiles were using it, they're using it to access some of the back wooded area, but there's no snow there anymore. So they actually dug up some of the dirt area, and then they're doing like this stuff, as I'm moving my mouse, I'm not sharing my screen so you can't see it, but like, they're doing bigger circles on the infield of the softball field, and it's just, it digs it up. And then the other thing that happens is that, and you might be able to see it in one of the next pictures. Let me see on so this is coming down from the stream side, and you can see where their tracks are. But when they come down on these areas, part of what happens is that it creates like an ice pack, and then it damages the turf underneath it because it doesn't melt as fast as the snow. There's not as much aeration because it's ice, not snow. And this is probably why that outfield, people complain of it being bumpy all the time. After looking at the field and walking it last week, I think this is part of the problem.
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't know why anyone would think that riding a snowmobile in the baseball field is appropriate
Lack
use
of
of the
common
field.
sense.
Yeah, and this is not just to access the backwoods, because they're doing donuts. There was a loop around, so they were doing loops around the infield, and they were also doing loops behind the dugouts, up on the hill and down. So no, I think it's just lack of respect, sorry.
Oh, no, it is. I'm just saying that part of the, like that in that main going through the outfield area.
Yeah, like,
I mean, it's
It's-
like a travel path. And that snow, when there's no snow there and it's dirt, it's not.
yeah,
even-
like this year's, it's just, this is not safe.
Have we
And
had,
it's not safe for the kids to run. And
have we
try to
had
catch a
issues with
volleyball.
this before in the
So
past?
yeah, so we most likely have, Pat, because I mean, I've noticed snowmobile tracks, on that field for numerous times, but I don't even remember oh no, so Anna and I were out taking a look at that property because I had seen the snowmobile tracks, and I had said, hey, do you think this is an issue? So we had met over there and walked it, and I, for me, it was like the first time that I started to really pay attention to the damage that was being done.
Okay,
So
Mm.
it's been used before. This is the first year we're sort of,
okay. But it does make sense with that frozen that, like you said, the people that are complaining about the outfields, I'll almost guarantee that's what it is.
Yeah.
Anna, would
You
it
know,
be
like that,
worth,
that right there, that picture right there.
Yeah,
would it be worth having a conversation with the Conservation Commission, considering this is their property? And if part of this damage is because of snowmobiles coming off the trails in the conservation land behind this property and coming across there, then, maybe they can help us
Actually,
mitigate that
sorry.
use or them coming through.
yeah, I mean, if you want to take on Dave, they meet quite often.
that actually looks like deer damage.
it is.
It
So
is,
the-
I
we
was gonna
did
say,
see
because
some
there's a
of
part
that,
and you
yeah,
can see, okay.
this year, yeah.
Yeah,
I
you can
was
see
gonna
the
put a
paw,
s-
but I bet you that's them digging in with their paw too.
It's
Right.
so soft over there, Pat. That whole area was extremely soft. Like even I stopped walking in that area because I was sinking enough that I was like, oh, I don't want to leave footprints on here. I was thinking we could put a sign up for no deer, but I don't think they pay attention, so.
How about no motorized,
Yeah, like you can see
Well,
here.
how far off the trail is this?
This is not for trail. This is
No,
where
no, what
people
I'm
bring
saying though is
donuts.
if there's conservation trail behind, how far is this? Off
I
of
don't
that?
know. I
I-
have,
Let's see.
I don't know if there's a trail behind there or not.
in
I
any
don't-
case, I'll reach out to somebody in conservation just to make sure they're
Yep.
aware and see if they'll partner with us to try to get it under control.
Yeah, so this here is Fitzgerald, number 43.
Is 44 oh no, the
No,
conservation
40
is,
it's
oh,
this here
there's
is
one.
conservation.
is the one.
44 is a piece of land that, and just so people know that, Anna, can you go to that? If you guys look at the corner of 43, where it goes the corner to 40, I keep pointing at my screen. Um, There's
It's
a,
okay, I'm here.
there's a house going in there. There's
Oh,
a-
yeah. That's
Yeah,
right. There
there's
is.
a house going in there, so that property
That's right.
is privately owned. So actually, there is no direct route from,
Right.
from,
So they're actually gonna go through that, and I just did
They're
the same thing.
they're going
They're
through
gonna have to
somebody's,
go through that guy's house or that property now.
and they may have permission. I have no
Yep.
idea.
Right.
But yeah, we don't directly abut any conservation,
Hmm.
or any other conservation owned properties.
Right.
Yeah, so, okay, Dave, if you could take the lead, maybe they can come up with some ideas. I don't know, but let me know. The, so the next thing is, open space. Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing. There we go. Let me just organize. I have a lot of windows open. So we had an open space committee meeting last week. And just as to recall, we as a commission, we talked about requesting the open space to make a recommendation to the select board to pass the 51 Parmenter Road to the current control of parks. And we are not there yet. What they have requested is, there was some discussion within the commission to, do they make it just a recommendation to pass the current control? They seem to think that could be a good property for parks. But towards the end of the meeting, Brandon mentioned that there is a danger of doing that without doing the due diligence, which is once a piece of land is under the current control of conservation or parks, it's open space, and then Article 97 kicks in. So they requested that we do some due diligence to see if concerns that some of the residents have are showstopper. And I offered to do that work. I just told them it would not be over the next month or two, just because I have a lot of going on. We have a lot of going on with Marshall. We have a lot of going on with the summer plans. And this is not something we'll be taking action right away. So I asked for a couple months at least before I can do the due diligence of, going to conservation, building. So it'll be a whole host of things. Their recommendation was to listen to the meeting again and take notes and do the due diligence of, researching if the property can become, what can the property become? And then report back. So my report, and I asked them for a few months to do that. If anyone would like to help, I can help you. I can help you with come up with the residents' concern is also in recorded meetings. But I think right now I wouldn't have the time. I'm just trying to be realistic based on what I'm doing for parks and also my own personal life. But again, we don't have a huge rush on that. This is one of the properties that the open space is considering. They're also considering Zero Reservoir Road, which I think is known as Stump Cove. And the process on both are still going forward. But anyway, any questions about that?
We get that email, George. Yep, kind of expressed some of those concerns as well. I think that you're talking
Right.
about a little bit there, so.
Yeah,
All right, I mean, just from a general, it's like in my mind, like when I think about the parliamentary property and so forth, like I'm not envisioning people dropping in like boats, I guess. Like in my mind, I'm picturing it more of a paddleboard, kayak, canoe kind of scenario, which, you know, I understand there still could be invasive
Right.
weed situations and so forth, and bottoms of boats and so, but I'm not picturing this as being I don't know, a motor, and maybe that's just my
no,
personal
it's
take.
not.
It's,
I don't think,
know,
yeah,
like, I don't think we're talking about dropping,
And-
you know, a full-on boat ramp in there. People are backing, you know, motorboats into Lake Shirley, but maybe I'm off on that. I don't know.
no, I
And
don't
Anna,
think it would
you
accommodate for
clearly-
that, Chris.
Yeah, Anna, you clearly at one of the open space meetings, you clearly stated that we're not looking for a boat ramp. We're looking for the car top stuff, the small kayaks and stuff. And I don't know why that this boat ramp description is being pushed forward over and over again. I thought you did a great job of explaining that we did not intend to go in that direction, yet it keeps coming back up over and over again.
Well, I think, you know, I think as we've seen with Marshall, the best way to, and by the way, Dave, thank you for that comment. I appreciate that. I think there was one meeting I was driving home because I'm so busy, I couldn't leave work earlier. I don't think I did my best, but I think the last meeting, I was able to elaborate and answer some of the questions. You know, the main thing is they have concerns, and I think they're fair concerns. I'm gonna take Brendan's word and also Michael Toohill, who's in the industry, that as far as they've seen from what we have envisioned, they think the property is suitable. But right now, I just don't have the time to investigate and do the due diligence needed. And I think the concern of passing that property to parks without knowing what it can be developed into or not is a valid concern. So I'll do the due diligence. I just don't have right now the bandwidth. So that's the update for that. So Mary Wilson from the Conservation Commission reached out to me, and they were thinking about maybe doing a Earth Day project. She didn't know what it was, and her and I had attempted plans to talk with each other, but I failed to call her because it was Saturday. I ended up having to go to work. But I am going to be talking with her and see if we can come up with plans of maybe doing something with both of the commissions, which I think it's a great idea. 2 years ago, was it 2 years ago then when we did Earth Day cleanup? And it was a great
Yes.
project. Yeah.
April 2 years ago.
Was it 2 years
Yes.
ago? I was gonna say, was it?
Well, it'll be
3
2
now at
years
this
ago
point?
this April. This
Yeah.
coming April will be 2 years ago.
So
We
I'll-
did it during
I'll-
code.
I'll
Okay.
engage with her to see what kind of ideas she has, and you know, if something seems like a easier idea that we can work, the two commissions working together would be great. And I just love that the conservation reached out with that thought. It would be great to get two commissions in town working together with the same goal. But if you have any ideas for Earth Day projects that you think the Conservation Commission and Parks Commission can do together, please feel free to share now or to send me an email. And, you know, we'll take it from there. And this will probably be a topic of discussion on our next meeting.
Try and roll around and look at I think what we did 2 years ago is we kind of drove, you know, and looked at our various parks, and that's what we had focused on, parks cleanups and so forth. And there really wasn't a lot of trash. It was more natural debris that we ended up picking up in our parks 2 years ago. With leaf bags and you
Yeah,
know, sticks and branches and acorns galore down by the corner of the pond. You know,
Right.
that kind of deal. So that's what we ended up doing. There was a little bit of trash in our parks, but for the most part, coming into spring, they were clean.
and I remember 2 years ago, Chris, actually that idea kind of got other people doing the same thing. I remember, for example, a friend of mine, she did some trash collection by down Mass Ave by just before Caldry, where there is a turtle crossing. So there were people that, so I think there were other initiatives that happened around town because we started a conversation on something. And the DPW at the time did a great job just picking up the trash. Anyone who'd call and say, I'm picking up trash at this location, they'll stop by and pick up trash that day. So yeah. So if you guys have any idea of plans or ideas, just send me an email. And I'll bring it to, and I'll talk with Mary and we'll see if we can come up with an idea and bring it to the commission our next meeting. All right. So next thing, I only have two more. So next week, the select board had invited us to go to their meeting to present, do a presentation about Marshall Park, the project, and grants that we're trying to apply in order to help them make the decision for ARPA funds. And I went and I did send you all an email with that update. They were looking for a few things that I think they were, I don't have that open email, but I think they were looking for what kind of, I forgot, I don't have it, but you will have that email. I'm going to confirm with them that we're still on for next week because they didn't have a meeting this week. And if I'm going to put a presentation together, I wanted their full attention. If the town manager is going to be presenting her budget to them the same night, maybe we don't want to do two big things in the same night. I know I get to probably 9:30 at night. I turn to Cinderella and I need to go to sleep. So does anybody have any thoughts on that? Any questions? No? All right. Do I know who can be there next week if it happens next week?
Do I have a choice, or is that like a valid question to me, or what is this?
It's not a valid question to anyone. I just need to get a head count. It's like me asking face to face. So
I think
Karen
I was
is a
told to put
yes.
this. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, Dave, are you a yes?
I'm
Yes?
definitely not available. I'm out of town.
Oh, Dave. What, school vacation, Dave?
He's taking the kids on vacation.
My winter
It's his
vacation.
winter vacation.
Okay, how about you, Pat? Do you think you'll be able to join us?
I'm not sure at this point. There
Okay.
possibly could be a high school hockey game that night, so.
Okay, I get it. On school vacation, they'll have a hockey game?
Oh, yeah,
Oh, okay.
it could be the last one of the season, so.
Oh, that's not good. Chris Sullivan.
The only question, I think I can be there because I think the school buildings will be closed, so I don't think I'll have basketball practice. I need to
Okay.
get final clarification on that, but then there is a track meet for Teagan. I don't know the date of the track meet for Teagan next week.
Why don't we post it on,
Boston.
it, and then if we need to no quorum it after the fact, we can, but at least.
Okay.
we're posted.
But I
The
I
thing
think I should
is,
be able to
like,
be there.
I think having public support and having the commission there helps us because we requested $2 million. So, if I can't get a solid yes, perhaps we should ask if we can get an agenda on a different day. Because the money's on the bank. It's just, what is everyone's thought? Because I think it'd be great if we could get public support. And I will do my reaching out to everyone, but I think it'd be good if we have more people from the commission other than just Karen Menard and I. Because Chris is a maybe yes.
Am I
Dave,
not
when are you
ready?
coming back?
March 2nd.
Okay. Oh, that's a long vacation, Dave. Dude.
What happens when you're, you get to,
Close to retirement.
yeah.
Good for you, Dave.
The second time.
All right. Okay.
What day is
Um,
Teagan's track meet?
Pat, is there a day that you might be able to say for sure, like after a day?
What time of day?
Yeah, what are we looking at? What kind of day you looking for?
Tuesday night.
It
A
would be a
Tuesday night.
Tuesday. Yeah.
I could probably definitely do the 28th. Are they still doing every other week? Or is it every
it-
week?
It's every week. Sometime the 28th it may not be happening because
Okay,
they
let me
don't do
see.
meetings.
I can do the 7th.
Okay, 7th.
Looks
Okay.
like the 14th. The 28th. Or the 21st. I can't do
Okay.
the 28th of March. I'm working, but any of those other Tuesdays in March, I can probably be there.
Okay. Chris Sullivan, when are you done coaching basketball?
Never.
Never.
It rolls
Just
into
ro-
soccer after this.
Yeah, just rolls right into soccer. So
Oh, gosh.
basketball practice. I have basketball practice on Tuesday nights through the 9th of March. No, sorry, that's the 7th of March. The 9th is the Thursday.
Okay. Okay.
So I am
All
Tuesday
right.
nights through the 7th of March.
So
I
go
just
14th.
texted the league director to see, yeah, school. All right, so schools are closed next week, so I could do next week. Schools are closed next week. I just got a text back.
Okay.
Schools are closed next week, so I can't have basketball practice on Tuesday. And Tegan's track meet, I just hollered over her track meets on Wednesday night in Boston. So
Okay.
uh,
All right. So we'll leave that open. I'll finalize that over the next day or so with everyone. I'll just communicate. But I'll
Just a
put it on
reminder,
for
if you
next.
want an agenda posted, it's gonna be posted tomorrow.
I know. Okay. How about you and I talk tomorrow and then I really want to know what's on their agenda because if Heather's doing a budget presentation, that's going to be a very long presentation. I'm not sure what would come first.
Yep, that's
And
fine.
so,
Let me know.
okay.
Yeah,
All
the
right.
only warning on it is I think March 7th is the ARPA discussion, so that could be a long meeting also.
But we would be part of that discussion.
Well,
so
that's
we kinda-
true. Yeah.
Yeah, so we would fall into that. Okay. So the last thing that I have on my update is as I push through with all the things that we are doing, and we'll talk about the Marshall RFP, whatever it is, the initials that should be used. And everything that's going with parks. I was thinking to ask our other members, you guys, if we want to consider maybe creating a Marshall Park Construction Committee. And the reason for that, and whatever means it needs to be for that, I don't know if it needs to go to town meeting to get an official committee together, or if we just need to have a subcommittee as, working from us. And the reason for that is I worked on the document that Chris created. And meanwhile, we need to get the schematic designs done from WOLA. And when we did the conceptual design, WOLA and the engineering company that went there and they did all the measurements they needed to do in order to create the conceptual design to make sure everything was going to fit in it where we want it. Usually the schematic designs come from that measurement. If we don't get the schematic designs done by WOLA and Meridian, we would need to start that process again because there were no deliverables from the conceptual design that we could give the next company that information for them to create the schematic designs. So we got quotes from WOLA and Meridian on putting the schematic design together. And as I'm working on the document from Chris, and I'm reading from trying to figure out what a schematic design needs to have, of course, WOLA and Meridian submitted information to us. Of course, it is what they want to deliver, but doesn't mean it's things that we need more things than just what they're delivering. Their price range, some of the price of these things tend to be very standard, is usually a percentage of a project, and their prices within that range. But the deliverables are really what matters. So as I started looking for that information, I found actually a really good website from the National Park Service, and actually lays out all the steps for conceptual design, schematic design, design development, engineering, construction documents. And then I realized that some of the things that I was adding to the engineering RFP really should have been on the schematic design request. So I put some notes together and I sent it to Ruth. And I actually, if you go into your meeting folder, there is that email that I sent to Chris there. I think I named the document. It's a PDF or not. The document's called Quotes Feedback to Facilities Director. It's a PDF document. And I can read that document for the purpose of open meeting law and even maybe share, Karen, if I still have the right to share.
I can share it. I've got it up.
Oh, you can share? Perfect. So you read it.
Me, thanks.
Oh, you sign that.
So I think this is it, correct?
Right.
All right, you want me to read the whole thing just real quick?
Yeah, I mean, or this is good. So basically, I don't know, it's up to you all. I mean, you can read it. It's so basically, I think that third paragraph there, the second and third paragraph, I think it's summarizes why I think maybe we want to consider creating a subcommittee. The more I learned about design and engineer of projects, the more I realized we should have probably had a plan for design engineering for the entire project from the start. Right now, we're piecemealing requirements in order to end up with a complete set of bid-ready and construction-ready documentation. This is not to say we have failed to gather the proper documentation. It just means that we are spending more time creating a design phase process that if we had outlined the entire process ahead of time, we wouldn't be wasting our time. So that is really where I realized that maybe if we have a subcommittee or a different committee, I'll look into what would be the best and the proper way to put that together. I think we might be able to get people with different backgrounds than we have. They are more aware of certain things regarding construction. And that subcommittee could be 5 to 7 people, where 2 is from parks representative. And I think it would just lessen the amount of work we're having to do. I am spending a lot of time of my own, and I am doing that to myself. I'm signing up to do things, but these are all things that I think we should try to do. We should try to have good communication with the Little League, with skate park, and all these things. I think it needs to happen. And I just think the work now, it's a lot. And perhaps a subcommittee will be helpful to us. Maybe, a contractor can join that subcommittee. Maybe an engineer who is part of a big company who won't be bidding on this document, on this project, can join that committee. And that would just help us. So those are my thoughts. And if I just want to get a sense if that's something that you all agree or not. And if you say yes, by next meeting, I'll have something to present to us for consideration.
Anna, with this big a project, why aren't we considering an owner's manager?
Because we're not there yet. But even
Okay,
when we
But
have,
when we get there, that will be something we're gonna do, because we're not gonna be able to manage this project once shovels are in the ground.
right, so that part comes when construction starts. So
Okay.
once you do the next phase, it can include bid management. So the company that creates the engineering and the construction documents would create the bid requirement and all. And then when you have the funding, you would get the owner project manager. The problem that I even see with that, Dave, is that depends on how we phase this project. It might be difficult to get someone on the ground with all this, the different parts that we're thinking that we can do. So I think the first phase is the biggest phase, but the other phase might happen over time. But we're not there yet. And right now there is still a lot of work.
Yeah.
So that was my thought, so.
I tend to agree with you about the subcommittee or whatever it needs to be called. and make sure that it's open to citizens, at least 2 citizens at large or something like that. And hopefully we get somebody with the expertise that helps us through that part of the project. I'll just mention this very quickly. Green Communities has been struggling with the streetlight conversion project now for almost a decade. In the last few months, we've hired the company called Light Smart, who has been doing these conversions in Massachusetts and Rhode Island for the last 20 some odd years, has the expertise, has the intimate contacts that are needed, ability to write the RFPs, everything. So in a matter of 2 or 3 months, we're going to wrap this project up for very small money that we did not have to go out to bid for. So, if we can get that kind of expertise, we can move this thing forward systematically and correctly, as
Right.
you're saying.
Yeah, and the energy that we're using, trying to do these things, and even with Chris Ruth, who has industry knowledge, he's going to be busy with a whole whole load of projects of his own.
Right.
So I'm not sure even him as a resource will be a full resource. So anyway,
Yeah, I think
Any
you're on
other-
board the right way here. I mean, unfortunately, we're, as a commission of volunteers, we're doing we went about this as best we could without really
Mhm.
being advised,
Yep.
In the proper way, which maybe with the right expertise, we could have been advised in the first place as to what we should have done and what the actual process should be. Just the second RFP or IFB we're working on now, we're kind of winging it and, trying to figure out if what's in there is what's supposed to be in there, and is it the right
Right.
stuff? And, if it's not, it's a lot of time wasted.
no, it is. It is the right stuff, by the way. I just want to say that.
Yeah, and you and I had, sort of talked briefly about this at some point this week, and, I think it's a great idea, and I do want to stress again to anybody, people seem to watch more and more of our meetings lately, that nobody is saying that we went about this the wrong way. There's just many puzzle pieces, and sometimes those puzzle pieces aren't known until after we get a few in place, and then we're like, ooh, this one should have been, buckled in at the same time as the last one. And so, I think that if we can put together a subcommittee that has, people that, are interested in the park, that have some knowledge of the, different processes and the way things work, and, can sort of throw in their 2 cents on it, I think we'd be in a much better place. I think that, as a commission in general, we don't tend to try to operate in a vacuum. So the more people that we can have, lending a helping hand in this, because there's going to be, we want to apply for grants, and, at our last meeting, I got the task of going through and, starting the application process for some of them, which is perfectly fine. But then that sort of led me down a different rabbit hole, which was there's still a lot of information that we need that we don't have yet. And will it come from the next phase? Yes. Could it come from the schematic design? Yes. And, we need these pieces in order to, completely apply for some of these grants that we want in the most beneficial way to the commission to, help ensure that we, have the qualifications and everything in order to get these grants. So I think it's a good idea.
Okay.
If we establish a subcommittee, maybe the question, can we designate or set it up in a way that we're seeking certain areas of expertise, kind of,
Yeah,
as we build that, so can we hand build that, that subcommittee, or how does that, I guess we find out what that process is.
so I'll bring options. To be honest, I don't know the mechanics within town by law, but I know the answer to your question is yes. For example, the APDC, they do when the planning board created the APDC, they did put it, so many members at large, and a member from the district, a member with this kind of background, a member with a different background, to the best that it can. So that's one of the things we can do. And we can say that the subcommittee will have at least 2 members of the Parks Commission, so that communication still exists. I don't think we can't do 3, because if we do 3, then it becomes a meeting. So it has to be a maximum of 2 from this board.
All right.
And the other thing is, like, I did spend time, building on what Chris has put together and get information from what Karen created from Grant. And I think we're delivering a lot of really good value for the town. I can tell you that it was a fish out of water, but we are going to deliver something good to the town, something concrete. I think what's going to be the final details, Chris, is going to be what we're going to get from schematic design versus what we're going to get in engineering. That we need to decide where that's going to land. But we're delivering a lot of good value. But honestly, maybe my strength is something else that's more of my water to swim, is advocating. Like, I have my strengths, and trying to create an IFB for engineering, it's not one of them, but I'll do it. But I think we are delivering a lot of good value for the town, without a doubt. And in particular, I want to say thank you to Karen and Chris for this past month and a half, for putting up with some of my crazy ideas of, let's do grants, let's do IFB. And we have learned a lot, and it's going to be really good. It has really, in my conversations with Heather, she really appreciates what we are bringing to the table, how we are working with her and her team. So all those things, it's really good for parks and recreation in Lunenburg. So big shout out to Karen and Chris. So thank you. Okay, so Pat, what are your
Oh, I
thoughts?
think it's a great idea. And actually, I would volunteer to be one of from the parks on that.
Oh, great.
I know the town, the people in town, the expertise we have in town, with people that live in town are just from people that I know, and the handful of people, and that's just only a handful of who will actually live here. I think we can get some very good expertise into what we're going to need for this. So yeah, I definitely volunteer to help out with it.
That's awesome, Pat. Thank you. I'll take you. I'm writing your name down, so just
Yep, that's fine.
That's awesome. Okay, so what I'll do for this item is I'll look into what is the mechanism we need to do for within the town bylaw, what are the requirements. And I know usually you have to draft the purpose of the committee or the subcommittee, and I'll probably draw into, there was a school building committee. I'll try to get language from that, and I'll put something together, and I'll bring in our next meeting. Thank you. So those were my updates. Thank you. And this is already a 2-hour meeting. Karen, park ordinance. Do you want to speak to this one and share that information?
Are you skipping 6, or do you want to go to just to 7?
Oh, I checked that and I shouldn't. Okay. So 6 is the following. Can you open that?
Yes, I can. And I think this, yeah, let me open it.
So after the day of our open space meeting last week, we got a communication from a lawyer for a Lake Shirley resident, and they had the letter. It was not a lawsuit. It was a letter that was delivered to Open Space Commission and the Parks Commission, the Conservation Commission. It was a whole bunch of people. So it's addressed to Michael Toohill, which is the chairman of the Open Space Commission. And here in this letter, which is in the meeting folder, it described the concerns, why they think that this project shouldn't happen, and things that have been said. And then, Karen, can you go to the last page?
Mhm.
So I have read a lot of what's in here, and these are things we have discussed in the meeting. And so, okay, so here's the part that I want to read to this commission and public. Wherefore, for the foregoing reasons, my client and many, if not all, of her neighbors are completely entirely opposed to the contemplated action by the committee. Please be advised that any approval by the town or committee to use 51 Parliamentary as a public boat launch will be appealed to the Superior Court, Department of Trial Court. Please do not mistake my client's resolve in this matter. So, so I don't know where the Superior Court, Department of Trial Court is, but it is, the town has a right to issue permits, and if the town issue permits, it has nothing to do with us. And issuing permits has nothing to do with the town's right to transfer land within departments or commissions. So the thing of this letter is, because it was addressed to Michael Toohill, he will be working with town council, if anything. But it's not the right way to start a conversation. I'm still going to do my due diligence as requested by the commission. And one thing that I think people don't really understand about public land, Karen, can you explain public land? Because I think you're better versed at it than I am.
Can I explain it in?
And like, what the town owns this property, what does that mean?
So it's my understanding that the town owning that property, it's under the care and control of the Board of Selectmen. If you want to go down there and walk on that piece of property as a resident of this town, you can. Which
Even not as a resident, actually.
Or, right, and anybody.
Public land.
Public land. And it should, I believe, my understanding, if my understanding is correct, that it could also mean that if, Dave and I decided tomorrow morning that it was going to be 66 and sunny at 11 o'clock, that we could technically bring some kayaks down and launch those kayaks from the shore of that piece of property, because it is public property. That is my understanding of it. I do want to throw a couple of things out on this, because I don't want to, the opportunities here, since this is here, and I've gone to the open space meetings and participated in some of these conversations. I am hopeful that this letter was just maybe too quick out of the gate. I absolutely see that there is concerns from residents. I think that those concerns, like every concern that we've ever had, will be listened to and weighed by our commission, by any other committee that's there. And I'm hopeful that as some of these residents have more and more conversation and partake in the conversations with us and other boards, that there may be a better understanding of what our thought is on being able to use this piece of property. I think that due diligence that Anna mentions is, there's stuff that we do need to follow up with and make sure that we are within the bounds of the law, especially around ADA compliance and, Conservation Commission. We're not looking to, steam in there and, take down every tree and create an open piece of property. That's never been the intention. So I'm hoping that as we move forward and, do some of this legwork on figuring out some of these things that, Anna has mentioned and concerns that have been brought up, that it will be a conversation that will end up in a positive light. And, there'll be a meeting of the minds on this. But we are so far off of, this isn't something that's happening tomorrow. It's not something that's happening next week, but it's, Open Space has been talking about this piece of property since I was on the Open Space Committee. It's, the opportunity was there for the Parks Commission to express interest in it, and, we did that. So now I think it's a matter of working through some of this stuff and working with open space and, you know, at some point, probably the select board and conservation commission and seeing what can be done. If anything, and if nothing can be done, then nothing can be done. And if there's something that we can create to have some access to that lake, you know, I think that it would be a huge benefit to the town. And as Dave said earlier, you know, we're not looking at a boat ramp like they have down at Lake Whalum. Nor are we looking to have something that would be, you know, hundreds of people a day down there. That area would not support that. You know, so a small area of parking, if that's possible, you know, a couple of people that are gonna launch their kayaks. I think that's more what we're looking at, not a, you know, we're not looking to put Shady Point out of business. Because I don't think that would be, I don't think what we'd be offering is what most of their people do anyway. I believe that they use that, Shady Point gets used as a boat launch for motorized bigger boats that are coming in on trailers that have to be backed down like you would see at Lake Whalum versus, you know, what I think the majority of us on this commission are thinking. So, you know, again, I think we're really far off. I think that there's, you know, some stuff that has to be done, some research that has to be done to, you know, make sure that all the concerns have been properly vetted. And, you know, see where it comes out. And if it's a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, then that's what it will be. And, you know, that's just the slow hands of municipal government and, you know, investigating some of this stuff. So.
Yeah, Chris Sullivan, do you have any comments, questions, concerns, thoughts?
No, I think we have it covered. I mean, we'll do our due diligence and, you know, again, I mean, I don't see any motorized, you know, any motored watercraft going in through that space at all. I mean, it's like we talked about rooftop kind of scenarios here, you know, like I don't even, you know,
Well,
kayaks, canoes, paddleboards kind of scenario would be my, you know. my
well, I
take
don't
on
think
it.
we're there to even, you know, but yeah, but anyway, yeah. Pat, do you have any comments?
No, I think I'm agreeing with Karen. I think it was a little early,
Yeah.
but you know, this is my first time, you know, I got that email the other day and so, and I haven't been at the other couple meetings, so
Yeah.
that was my first, it was me being aware of it for the first time, so.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I think what I find discouraging about this type of comment is, you know, I keep saying this, we are in the Parks Commission, there is the Open Space Commission that I'm part to, and the goal is to, you know, explore how we can use our open space. For the Open Space Commission, for us, is how we can use, you know, our parks and use our land for parks and recreation activities. And that's our job to do. This letter, I had to somewhat, I found it comical that the threat is we should not even think about it. That's the tone, and that's not going to happen. So it's not a really conversation starter point for me. I think a conversation, you know, is really tell me what your concerns are, and then I'll do my due diligence. So, but I did want to bring this to everyone's attention because I think it somewhere had right there carbon copy to Lunenburg Parks and Recreation Committee, which we're Lunenburg Park Commission, but I think they intended for us. So there you have it. You have a copy of it. All right. So that was 6.
I'm gonna I'm gonna try to do mine really fast because, you know, it's 9:20 and I'm about to turn into Cinderella. So this conversation is overdue. It's about trying to enforce some parking rules within our parks. It really came to light, I don't know, 6 weeks or so ago when a resident decided that they should post their car for sale. And they drove up over the front lawn of the Marshall Park entranceway in order to display their Jeep. I think they might even been up on like a snowbank or something, you know, like what Jeeps do best. And then obviously we had the issue with the driving down in Powell Field, and now we've got some stuff over at Fitzgerald. So I quickly put together, this is my general thoughts. Vehicles allowed in defined parking and driveway areas only. No vehicles on fields without prior approval of, and I have a blank line, which would include ATVs and snowmobiles. No vehicles parked on any park property with the sole purpose of advertisement, such as political, business, or for sale. And I know that there, some places will control some of their parking by saying parks are closed from dusk to dawn, so there should be no cars parked there. I sort of have that listed. I'm a little hesitant in even recommending that to the commission because I feel like, some people will carpool or whatever to a nighttime game or whatever. And I would hate to have them not be able or come back and find their car towed because they weren't able to park there after dusk. But yeah, that's sort of what I had pulled together to start creating that. I don't know if anybody has any feedback, if I should take this to town manager, who would then probably do what they did with the dog policy and run it through town council, who then comes back with all that fancy wording that, it's out of
So
my
I had
pay
started
grade.
emailing, once that Jeep was there, I had gone and emailed Heather and the chief of police. Chief of police said, well, we're free to create whatever policy we want to create. There aren't any parking ordinances that exist now. Once we create the policy, they can have signs made and posted and so forth for all our parks and so forth. I'd go so far as to say no overnight parking. Maybe there isn't a, dawn to dusk sort of rule, but just no overnight parking. So we're not dealing with, an abandoned vehicle that doesn't fit any of the other parameters we're talking about. Without, and maybe a parameter in there without express consent from the park commission. As we look forward, is there a, if we, as Marshall Plan continues, like a construction vehicle that's left overnight, they would have consent from the commission to leave a vehicle kind of scenario. But I would probably support no overnight parking.
Yeah. I think no overnight makes sense. Yeah, I understand the dawn to dusk, but yeah, overnight.
Yeah, that one's tough because you have those late night the late baseball games that, you're getting over right at dusk. So.
And let's be,
Yeah.
are we
Dusk to
really gonna
dawn
find
is-
a car towed at 11:30 at night? Probably not. You know what I mean? But that's more in my mind would be, we say no overnight parking and there was a car left at Marshall in the lot and 2 days later it's still sitting there.
Oh, yeah.
That's gotta be, towed kind of deal,
Yeah, Karen, I like it if you want to do the steps you laid
So I
out.
guess
earlier.
my question, so one of the things I have in there is no vehicles on fields without prior approval. And the reason I said without prior approval is because the Little League or youth baseball, please correct me every time I say that. In years past, there's been a few times where they've brought in like a four-wheeler to drag the T-ball field and they attach something to it. I don't want anybody, I wouldn't want them to get in trouble for that. So that's why I said without prior approval, but who's going to give that approval? Would it be us or would it be the recreation director? Would it be the facilities director? Would it be
I think-
participation
Facilities, I would
or
I think it would
facility?
be rec director. Or, well, I think you need to put it under the department. And then the department head can designate the person responsible for it.
So
And
of
right
the
now we're,
recreation department?
say that again?
So no vehicles on field without prior approval of the recreation department?
No, facilities department. The
Facilities department.
facilities.
Okay.
I don't think it's a department. I think it's a facilities director
Do
Or
I
it's-
want to include us in there at all, or just say facilities department?
I would say just the facility. I
Okay.
mean, I don't think we need to get involved because if someone needs to
Oh,
get
I'm fine with
approved,
that.
right,
I
we,
just-
we meet once a month, so.
Right, well,
Yeah.
that's what I was thinking too. We meet once a month and then somebody wants to do it and you're gonna have to give 30 days notice. How are you gonna know what, if it's
I
something
was
like
just
that?
thinking more like, what would happen, and I can't imagine this happening, but what would happen if, the facilities department said, no, you can't do that. And then they came and, complained to us, could we
Then we-
override that?
Um,
And the answer is probably because we could just create a new policy.
I think
Right
it'd have to be
there.
a topic of discussion for us to discuss, but I mean, I think the person that's probably most equipped to determine what is an appropriate vehicle on a, on a field is gonna be our facilities director.
So
Right.
no overnight.
I agree
parking-
with that.
No overnight parking without written consent of the facilities department as well?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think so.
Yep.
Right, so let me throw this, I'll throw it out to town manager in the next week or so. I did go on earlier to see when town council has hours, which is February 27th. Out between him and, or between town manager and town council and those hours, I'll see if I can figure out how they want us to, I shouldn't say how
Right.
they want us, because it's what we'd be presenting. When we did it with the dog policy, like we sent them a list of things and they sent us back this like,
Probably have to
Very-
say something like, towed at owner's expense or something into that too.
okay. Yeah.
Can you, Karen, can you
So,
read
so
the,
we're not gonna get, somebody's not gonna come after us for towing their vehicle. So
Right,
they know that it's in writing, so.
on the no vehicle, does it say fields or does it say parkland?
so I have vehicles allowed in defined parking and driveway areas only, no vehicles on fields without prior approval of the facilities department. This includes ATV and snowmobiles.
So we say field, and it's, I don't know how we redefine it, I guess, but like I'm picturing the
Surfaces.
roadway going into Marshall Park and the parking lot at Marshall Park. We really shouldn't be having snowmobiles even on that. But that policy, what you're reading doesn't limit that.
I mean, we could add something in there that says no ATVs or snowmobiles on park.
Yeah, I guess
So-
something in there to
Well,
say that
I
we
mean-
don't allow those vehicles.
Hold on, we get a
Um,
number, we have Northfield Park as part of our,
Right,
parks.
that's true.
Is that,
And-
I mean, are people, I haven't been over to look, are people riding their snowmobiles through there right now?
I've got to
Oh, I
assume
bet
that they are.
They've gotta be that.
oh
big of a
yeah, they are,
property.
like, yeah.
And to
So what we
connect
can
over.
say, yeah,
And designated,
you
I
know,
mean, I
in the
guess we're gonna
dog-
have designated signs, I guess, or whatever.
Yeah, and
Well,
also in the
you-
dog policy, we actually listed the locations.
But you can also just make signs up for each individual, so you're only making it for
we're posted.
where it's posted. Like you put signs up at Marshall Park, you put signs up at,
Yeah,
McNally and all
Fitzgerald,
those, yeah.
McNally, none of those should have
and
snowmobiles.
then there's nobody, you're not putting it at Northfield where they can ride, so.
So I actually, in just listening to this conversation, I sort of went back and this is what I added, no vehicles on fields, playgrounds, or courts without prior approval of the facilities department. So that
Mhm.
would include anybody who decided that they were gonna snowmobile through Wallace Court, basketball, through the playground over there. Takes care of, that would take
Dirt
care of that.
biking down
Right.
McNally.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so let me send this over. I don't think we need to waste any more time on it. This is, just so everybody knows, so the record is, straight. I had the quickest agenda item of the evening. So, all right, move on to the last agenda item.
Sure I
Let's see if you
can.
can do it in less than 9 minutes.
Okay, I think I can because, can you allow me to share, Karen?
Yeah, sorry, there were other people in here before and I just didn't want everybody to have the ability.
That's
to-
okay, Karen.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, so Chris did the fabulous job of creating the first draft of the IFB for the landscape and architectural engineering services. And I cannot say thank you enough, Chris, for doing that.
There's a lot of
Um,
red there for a fabulous job.
No, well, the things that I added, I added some specific language to engineers in here. And then I added some items related to ADA. But the biggest add was here on the scope of the services to just say the project has to be sustainable and ADA compliant to its maximum and should be to the maximum. That's what these two paragraphs I tried to do. Then I also added deliverables, which something else that I learned. There's something called the basis design report. And I added a request for a basis of sustainability design report and basis of accessibility design report. And those would be the reports we would use for the for applying. They'll tell us what is the logic for this, what was the thought process and design that makes this project sustainable, and what is the design thought process on this project that makes this project accessible to all. And the part that I paused a little bit, Chris, was when I started I started reading the documentation from the National Park Service, because here it's when I learned that this is a checklist for pre-design and schematic design for sustainability. So a lot of the things that I thought it was exclusive to the engineering phase, I think it also needs to happen on schematics during the schematic design. So I think the language needs to be in both. And that is my long email to Chris that earlier we saw, which says these things need to be on. But this here gave me a really good insight on, I don't think we need to list everything. I think we just need to list that we need the report that talks about this as a deliverable. And when we're doing the schematics with WOLA, which will likely be WOLA, when they come, we need to make sure that these items are incorporated in the schematic design. Because what happens is, it's not just it happens on the engineering and construction paper. It needs to start from the beginning. And we already did that because she already has, she has a pollinator garden there. We just got to make sure that, she does have a plan for reuse of stormwater and these other things. So I'm actually going to send them this. So did anyone else look at the IFB that Chris had sent a few weeks back?
I did.
You did? Do you have any feedback?
No, again, this is out of my wheelhouse. This is,
Tell me about it.
I know. So, it's one of those things where I think that it's taken, we've worked with you, like I've worked with you and Chris has worked with you on totally different things, because obviously we're not making a quorum. And I think that when I express a need of something in a grant, so when I started looking at the grants that I was tasked with the last meeting, I actually ended up going into every single grant that we had on our list and pulling out the information that we were going to need, and then sort of let Anna run and figure out how to make heads or tails of it. So, when I look at this, I think we are on the right track in making sure that we have everything that we need. Whether or not we've got every single puzzle piece, I don't know, because again, it's out of my wheelhouse. It's not my, not my area.
But I think in terms of the RFP, really this is RFP because of request for proposal. It turns out that anything that's design related, you actually don't have to go for the cheapest. you can go for the one that you
Right.
find to be the best design. So
It
this
was
is at the end,
same- Yeah, it was the same way with, when we chose the last one too.
right?
That's
So this is going, so the only deliverables added to this is that we wanted a report. But as we work with WOLA, we need to make sure WOLA is adding these concerns for the sustainability. And I'm gonna get a checklist. I'm sure there is a checklist that's out there about accessibility.
Yes, and I'm sure there is. Just because I don't remember off the top of my head. I know that you have the blank lines for some of the dates, but do you have a, in the actual proposal, did we verify that all the dates were correct? Like, do we have to put in an end date?
Yeah, but we don't have the dates right now because the reality is we need to have the schematic done for this to take place. And WOLA gave us a time frame of 6 to 8 weeks.
Okay,
And this cannot start until then. And we haven't finished we haven't closed the deal with WOLA and Meridian yet.
Okay.
So the timeline, and I think there's some cleaning up in here. I think the template that Chris used to listed Heather, but I think now they consistently list Julie. But yeah, but Chris, I cannot thank you enough for all the work you did. Really, like, it was a lot of information, and you made it possible for me to spend my time figuring everything else out. So I appreciate, and Karen, if you hadn't put the other piece together, I would not have known to exactly ask for these two pieces.
so what do
which-
you, yeah, so what do you need from, what is the next step right now? Do you need us to make any motions tonight?
No.
Any of this? Okay.
No, I just wanted to know if anybody had any feedback. It's a pretty standard RFP. I added the two things that you hadn't seen before because Chris had shared the previous document.
Yeah.
So these are the two things, is the basis of sustainability design report and basis of accessibility design report. Those are
Okay.
the two things we're gonna need. So like the dog park, that report for accessibility needs to talk about the dog park, needs to talk about the bathroom, needs to talk about the walking path, like all of these things need to be addressed. And that's pretty much the report we're gonna use for the grants.
Okay, perfect. It looks good to me.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. So that was it. So what I'm gonna do with this now is I'm gonna start working with Julie. I'm going to coordinate with Julie, Heather, and Chris to make sure we are at the right time to post this, because we need to list that we have the schematic design, that we have the survey, and that becomes part of this package. And
Okay,
until we close with WOLA and Meridian, we cannot for sure post this. Like, I don't think we want to make this public until we for sure have the schematic designs.
okay,
And so just we all know that schematic design proposal does list 3 meetings with us and is a pre-meeting, then a 50% meeting, which is when they have worked on some of the project and they come back to us. And then when they do the final presentation, very similar to how the conceptual design phase went.
okay.
All right. Okay, with that said, is any other business matter that may legally come before the board? And I don't have anything else. Anybody have anything else?
No,
Oh, okay. Correspondence, I already shared some announcements. And does any public comment from the public?
we don't have anybody anymore.
Yeah, last.
Okay.
You scared them all away.
That's not the intention. Any public comment from the board?
No.
No, okay. And with
What are we
that,
gonna
I'll take,
do? Nope.
Oh.
What are we doing for next meeting?
well, it will be, we have one with the Slack board that I'll keep everybody posted. And then it will be the 15 again.
Okay, I'm not here, just so
Where you,
Fine. I'm not available that night,
which night are you available?
the
Karen?
night of the
15th of March.
15th.
Which night will you be available, Karen?
I'm not available at all that week.
Oh, is that week that you're not available?
I'm not available the week at all.
Okay.
That's why I didn't want you to end this meeting without deciding on a date.
Okay. Would anyone be opposed to the 22nd?
No, it's just the beginning of Ramadan, so.
Okay, I'm okay with that.
It's just on my calendar.
Okay.
don't-
Okay, does
just-
anyone oppose our next meeting to be March 22nd?
No,
Okay, so March 22nd it is. If not, in between now and then, we'll have a meeting with the select board.
okay. So I'm gonna make a motion to adjourn at 9:44 PM.
Do I have a second for that?
Second.
All
I mean, he's
right.
sitting right next to me. You think he would have seconded?
You know,
I thought he was
you-
sleeping.
You know,
He's-
I've
he's-
opposed adjourning before.
Oh,
He's,
God.
he's having too much fun with you, Karen. He doesn't want to go home. Yeah,
Exactly.
that's
By the
what it
way,
is.
by the way,
Oh, so he timed it. So we were
Oh.
tied on that agenda
Okay.
item. So, all right, so
All
I
right.
motion to adjourn at 9:44. Chris seconded, so you
All
can
right, I'll
call.
take a roll call vote. Dave,
I
Karen,
Aye.
Chris,
All right.
Pat,
Aye.
and I for myself. Good night and thank you, everyone.
All right,
Thank
good
you.
night. Have a good one. We'll see you guys later.
Yeah.